Okay.
Reconvening opening session for procedural business at the regular board meeting of Rim of the World Unified School District is called to order on March 9, 2023 at 5:39 p.m. Roll call. Trustees to identify themselves by first and last name to formally establish a quorum. Bill Mellinger, Trustee Area 1.
Dana Redland, Trustee Area 2.
Cindy Gardner, Trustee Area 3.
Scott Kraft, Trustee Area 4.
Jordan Zarate, Trustee Area 5, Running Springs, Arrow Bear Lake, Green Valley Lake.
And I've asked Trustee Gardner to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll give me just a minute, I'm going to share the screen, and I have a flag that we'll be putting up. And Trustee Gardner, if you would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I'm going to stop sharing now. Thank you, Trustee Gardner. Appreciate that. Closed session report, 8.1 announcement of reportable actions taken during closed session. Just one moment, please, as I get back to my notes. We do have some reportable action that I do need to share. Uh-oh. I'm sorry, I thought I had it here and I have moved it off. So if y'all will give me a minute, I have to get back to it. Closed session agenda item, public employee discipline dismissal release pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. In closed session, the board took action to non-reelect employee number 3252, a probationary certificated employee pursuant to Education Code Section 44929.21, effective at the end of the 2022-2023 school year. The board directed the superintendent or designee to send out appropriate legal notices. The roll call vote was unanimous. (9.1) Public testimony. Public comment period for items listed on this agenda and non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the governing board. The public comment period is administered by state law. And is the point in the meeting set aside for members of the public to share their opinions with the board. Open meeting laws do not permit the board to engage in dialogue or answer questions. Though it may not take action on non-agenda issues raised at the public comment period, the board, for example, may refer any matter to the superintendent for review or take action to direct staff to place a matter of business on a future agenda. Any person who wishes to address the governing board on agenda and non-agenda items within the subject matter of their jurisdiction must complete a green speakers form and submit it to the executive secretary to the superintendent before the meeting is called to order. Individual speakers are allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda item. The board limits the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. Speakers who have complaints against board members or staff are encouraged to seek resolution to those complaints by using the Rim of the World Unified School District written complaint procedure rather than orally addressing them at a meeting. The board will not respond to such complaints until the applicable complaint procedure, BPAR 1312.1, has been followed and has reached the board level. Where a complaint concerns a district employee identifiable by name, position, or other facts, the board cannot respond until proper written notice has been given to the employee pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. The governing board is interested in the ideas and opinions of all stakeholders and endeavors to incorporate community views into its deliberations and decisions. At the same time, it must be able to conduct its business in an organized and efficient manner, free from material disruption. Therefore, in accordance with Board Bylaw 9323 and Government Code Section 5495 7.9, audience members may not disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of this meeting. Open meeting laws do not confer any privileges or protection for expression beyond that otherwise provided by law. The public's understanding and cooperation are appreciated. 9.2, public comments. We do have one. And so, Mark, if you would, I don't have the note here in front of me right now of our guest, so please.
She is on and you can begin.
And if you would, because I'm having a little trouble getting through all of my windows, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Lorena Alatorre.
Thank you.
Thanks for giving me this opportunity. I just want to thank you, the superintendent, and all of you, because during this term, there is the information that the superintendent sent us as a parents has been the only reliable information. Everything was there, the plan, everything. So I just wanted to thank everyone about this. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. (9.3) RIM Teachers Association representative. I believe we have our RTA representative with us, right? Ngazi, there she is.
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome. Welcome.
Hello. So good evening, board and cabinet. We hope that everyone is doing well. We are pleased to hear that our communities are mostly in the recovery phase for so many of our mountain residents and businesses. And like Dr. Fricker said in her update, this will take some time. I've been in contact with many of our members and families that have suffered from property damage, displacement, and some that are still trapped by snow or lack of road access to the main arteries of our communities. And like our former speaker, RTA appreciates the communication from the district and Dr. Fricker as a part of the emergency response team, as those updates kept many of us informed about the current situation and the state of our communities. We know that it's the district's priority to have a safe return, and taking the proper steps before throwing us back into the schools is very important to us as well. With that being said, feeling safe and being safe has a social emotional component to it. There were so much of our staff, our families, students who have gone through a highly emotional time within the last couple of weeks, and that needs to be considered. A question RTA would like to pose to the board and cabinet is, while looking at reopening, how is RIM going to support the social emotional health of our staff and students upon returning? After checking in with our staff within the last week, our members would like the district to consider a transition period, possibly a day, without students, to be able to return to the classroom, to our sites, and just to, get back into that mindset to be ready for our students after this intense time for our community. We would like again to thank our administrators for checking in with staff and the district for keeping us informed through this tough time. We know that recovery will take a collaborative effort, and we are here to assist in your efforts in any way that we can. CTA does have a disaster relief fund for our certificated members, especially for those who were directly affected by the storms. And for those members, they can reference the email that I sent out yesterday. And if anyone needs that information, I can resend it out. And we hope that everyone stays safe out there, and let us know how RTA can help. Thank you.
Quick question. I just wanted to ask, any update on the Tiptons and how they're doing? And it's sad to hear that they lost their house, and I hope they're doing okay with everything that's involved in that. But any updates?
Unfortunately, no. I haven't heard anything yet.
Dr. Fricker, do you happen to know anything?
I do not. We reached out just to see what we can do. And there are many, I know Elaine was a former teacher here at RIM, and I know that there are other families who have had, structural damage. So we're trying to identify who those folks are and then reach out to them as to what we can do.
And Ghazi, thank you for communicating with your members too. We really do appreciate all of you, and thank you.
Thank you.
And I don't think that we have a representative from CSEA with us. It doesn't look like it. So 10, governing board members reports and announcements. 10.1, governing board members. And if it's okay with you all, I'm going to start, and we'll go just right down trustee area numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have had an exceptional representative that has been representing our community in disaster relief. I thought her title was superintendent, but I guess it's a disaster coordinator for the mountain. And I just want to say that the school district has really tried its best to be a resource and an asset to the community. Dr. Fricker has personally opened up locations, been on site of buildings, of schools, in order to allow people to come in and get resources. We've had principals like Brian who have been at CHE, opening that facility up as an emergency center. We would have opened up more if we could have actually been allowed to, so to speak. But this Valley of Enchantment is a food distribution center. There's been a lot that the school district has done. And most of all, Kim's, Dr. Fricker's communication to the community, which most of us have shared, has really been an asset, I believe, to the community. So on behalf of the school board, Kim, we just want to thank you for all the work that you've done. And I know that you're exhausted. And so in about 6 months, we'll give you a break, if that's okay. I think isn't that summer vacation, everybody? Seriously, you may need to take some break right away. The teachers are asking for some time to get back adapted. I think you might need some time to just hold your eyelids open. But thank you on behalf of the school board for everything that you have done, and our appreciation to all of the staff. We had a host of teachers. We actually saw Tori's new baby. He helped us welcome people at Valley of Enchantment for the food distribution there. We've had just people all across this district who have really made a difference in the community. And so to everyone in the RIM family, thank you. And also the other fact that this has reminded us of, just like in the old fire, there will be times, if there ever is that major earthquake, this was a test for that, because we will be isolated on the mountain. We will not be able to just wait for services to come to us. We will have to take care of one another. So to the community, on behalf of the school board, thank you. Thank you for all the ways that neighbor has helped neighbor, digging out neighbor, knocking on doors, checking on one another. Thank you to everyone that has done that. And so we appreciate you, and our prayers are with this entire community. With that, Dana, if you'll go next, please, trustee area 2.
Hi, everyone. So I'm looking at my notes of what I was going to talk about. And like one of the first things I have there is neighbors helping neighbors. So there's a lot of things that just basically when Bill says it's from the school board, I'm not going to repeat what Bill had to say. So what I have seen over the past couple of weeks now, and actually in the past couple of days, I've been up the mountain. I was one of those folks that was stuck. There's a lot of homegrown solutions. And I really commend our community on our problem solving ability. And so while Bill mentioned the extraordinary things that Kim has done in helping our community, I don't know whether people are aware of the solutions that she's devised. We definitely immediately needed to get goods and supplies into families' hands. We as a community, not me personally. I wish I could have been a part of the solution. I was too far away to help. And Kim geniusly created a hub and spoke solution using the high school as a central location to be able to receive in large trucked in, large vehicle, helicoptered in supplies as a location then more centrally located than to be able to get them out to the communities that need it. And so I don't believe her superintendent or administrator or teacher training ever helped her develop those specific skills, but those homegrown solutions, there was a problem and she has continually been figuring it out. We needed to have trash somehow getting out, away from houses. She coordinated with Burtech to be able to provide more central locations so folks can, get their trash cleared out. Communication, again, we don't have a local government on our mountain. Early on in Kim's tenure, she recognized that we are that municipality, even though we aren't. And so with this situation, I couldn't be prouder of her and the school district's reaction to filling the need, this void that we don't have in this emergency. And she has worked tirelessly to care for our RIM families, not worrying about whether they're RIM Unified School District families, their communities' needs. She was making sure as continuing and tirelessly working hard as problems come up to solve each problem as they arise. Boots on the ground, making sure that we are continuing to improve the situation. So I'm just blown away by what has been accomplished. And Kim has headed up the effort, but like Bill mentioned about Brian Willemse, but also I believe Brian King has also been over at Hoffman, Tori and Tracy over at VOE, and just been phenomenal. Another homegrown solution besides neighbors helping neighbors is I'm going to give a shout out to Christy Baltazar, customer of ours, who heartbreaking early on, some friends of hers, some elderly folks did not survive the initial storms. And out of frustration about the lack of ability for resources to get out, she started up a program where looking at geographically where people are located in our community who have need, and pairing them with geographically people in those same areas who could help. So she created a form that locals can fill out at move.sc/mountainhelp, creating a boots on the ground organic solution to the problems that are arising. So facilitating neighbor helping neighbor. So fantastic, wonderful. One of the things, a couple of things that we need now is we've had our mountains just declared that we're in a state of emergency. We need federal help. And I know our local chambers are working on getting the federal government to have a disaster declaration. Our local chambers are asking us to contact our state government representatives to push our governor to request that we are declared that we, through our state of emergency, that we need that federal help. So please, anybody who's listening in, advocate with our local representatives to have a federal disaster declaration to be able to help us get additional support. So one of the things that's been apparent to me is on our mountain resort community, we have a lot of houses that are not full-timers but are generating property tax revenue. Our state is receiving a ton of money in from our mountains that we're not seeing back. Moving forward, I really think it's going to be important for our board to focus and advocate to be able to make sure that we are receiving more of the resources we need to be able to care for our community. It's heartbreaking to me that we don't have the means to be able to provide a shelter for our Crestline community. I know that we've investigated trying to use LGEC or using VOE. They're not outfitted, they're not set up such they could be readily used. We don't have a community center. We don't have any municipal buildings that could be used for our populace, where most of the other communities across the state have such a building. We're not being taken care of by the state as we should be in terms of funding to be able to make sure that our community members can be safe and secure, such as the time like this when a disaster hits. So it isn't that we are a poor community, it's the money that is being generated on our mountain is being spent elsewhere. And we could do better. And so in the months to come, with Goodwin's not available to serve our Crestline community, we're going to be needing to really provide additional ongoing support to our families, and we're going to need additional help to do so. So I think our work as a board is really going to be cut out. It's going to be tough. It's going to be ongoing in the months to come. And I just wanted to throw that out there in terms of getting folks thinking in that direction. So everybody out there, be safe, take care. Realize probably the situation we're in, yes, we're in recovery, but it's more of a marathon than a sprint. Make sure you're taking care of yourself first, and be kind to yourself and be kind to others.
Cindy Gardner, trustee Area 3.
You two are so eloquent. Yay. So without repeating, because I just think I'm just going to say ditto, ditto, ditto. I just want to reach out to all of our community members and our families. Just my heart goes out to everybody. This was such a scary, scary event. My anxiety level was greater than even evacuating during the old fire and the 2007 fire, because I was stuck. I was by myself for most of the event. And the way my house is situated, the amount of snow was terrifying, and I couldn't get out. And I felt so badly because I volunteer all the time, and to not be able to go help people because I couldn't get out was just heartbreaking for me. But I literally, my anxiety, I feel for everybody who said, I'm so anxious, I'm pacing my house. I'm so anxious, this energy, this anxious energy, I don't know what to do with. And I made so much soup. I just have to tell you, that's one of my things I do is I stress bake and I stress make. And I think I made enough soup for, like, I don't know, another 4 weeks, but it's just the fact that this was really, truly scary. And it took me forever. And today I went on my roof to start on the snow removal of my roof because I'm freaking out. And then I realized that maybe I should wait, because if I fall in the snow and get buried, or I fall off my roof, no one's going to know to check on me. So maybe I should make smarter choices. And then I got off the roof. But it's just those things that my heart goes out to everybody, because this was truly traumatizing. And we all are going to have a little bit of PTSD. So Jordana's right. Let's take care of ourselves, our family, our friends. I still have a friend who's stuck. She's not on a main road and there's 5 feet of snow. I'm hoping that CAL FIRE gets to her. They are doing door-to-door checks. A friend of mine said that she got a knock on the door and it scared her to bits, because she was like, who's coming? And it was CAL FIRE. Okay, do you need help? So please watch out for CAL FIRE. If you know someone that is still stuck, who needs help digging a tunnel to the outside world, whatever it is, and you get that knock on the door from CAL FIRE, please direct them to those that you know are in need, because filling out calling that number, you're put into a queue. But if you have that face-and-face interaction with those people that are coming to your door, please direct them to those in need. It is neighbor for neighbor. When my neighbor did a little grocery run, when we finally were able to get out, I want to thank the guy. I took video of him, front loader. He's not with the county. He did our road. And then he saw me pathetically with my snowblower stuck at the bottom. And he's like, I gotcha. And my 12-foot berm, he took away from, and the relief I felt, I literally started crying because I was so grateful that somebody stopped to help me because I was by myself. And every survival was very daunting. And I feel for all of you because we are all in the same boat. I finally took time because I was stuck to have dinner with my neighbors, and we're always on the go. And this made me just stop and realize that my neighbors are so important. They are my village. We are a village. We help each other. And without this village, we cannot survive things like this without each other. It really truly takes that village to look out for one another, to take care of one another, and to really be there. And I just really appreciate my neighbors and my community and how we've responded to this situation. Everybody is right. We need to look for ourselves to solve our problems as we go through this recovery, because and hopefully not future events, because we realize, as Bill said, we are isolated. We do have to turn to each other for our own survival and to help and to be able to be there for one another. So as we go forward in recovery, let's look to the lessons that we've learned through all of this to apply to the future. I know for myself, we're getting 2 chains for each car because that was a problem. We're going to get, instead of having 3 shovels, we're going to have 6 shovels, just because we broke some. And so I'm just saying is that everything from those small things that you can do with your own household to our community, we really need to look at preparing for future events, whether it's a fire, earthquake, and hopefully no more snow events, but we really do need to prepare and put that in our minds. How is this community going to respond to these kinds of events? Because we may not have help for days or even weeks. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for being there for one another, for helping one another, for going that extra mile, creating food distributions and point of contact. All of you, the private contractors that came, the guy that came to my rescue, oh my God, I would marry him if I wasn't married. I just was so in love with him at that moment. So thank you to now the CAL FIRE, the search and rescue people, the inmates that are coming and digging us out, the first responders, all of these people that are coming to our rescue. Just eternal grateful, love on you right now, because it's just been a very scary situation. So thanks. Thank you. Thank all of you, because I really needed you guys, and you were there for me, and I'm there for you. Now I can get out. I can help y'all.
Thank you, Cindy. You bring up something that I want to just remind everyone that if you are still happen to be listening to us right now and you are still stuck, please call 911. Please call 911. If you know of somebody who's still stuck, and that still may happen because snow will be coming off of roofs, doors may get blocked again, please call 911. With that, we'll go to Scott Kraft, Trustee Area 4.
I agree with you, Bill. The rain's coming, and that's going to add additional problems. People are going to have what we call snow dams up here because the snow is going to prevent the water from getting away from the house. So yeah, call 911. And I agree with Cindy. All these people that are hurting, there's a huge community that still needs a lot of help. And I hope that everybody is still there for them. Then again, I'm so encouraged by all the people that are stepping in there, because when I'm going around and seeing everybody, these are students and former students who are doing the work that needs to get done. Anything from shoveling to delivering food, distributing food. I saw Nolan Calkins, that's a local business owner, and he's out driving, delivering food to people that need to be delivered. And the helicopters that are coming in, one of them's owned by a former student, Brad and Kim, and they're landing food and delivering food to the local food distribution centers. And it's so encouraging. Michelle Calkins, she was on Inside Edition, and she's doing all these interviews, but she raised awareness. And sometimes that's what it takes, is you have to raise awareness in order for anything to get done whatsoever. And she's taken that on and doing that. And our school district, again, Kim, thank you so much for what you're doing, and you're running around. I know you're not getting any sleep, and my heart goes out to you, because everything that you have to deal with is just so overwhelming and immense. And it seems like you have such a handle on everything that's going on for as little time as you've been here. But that, I know that's because you come from back east, where you have to deal with all these ice storms and all these crazy things that we don't have to deal with in California usually. But I thank you for that. Sky Park, Kim and Bill and Michelle, who I think they're housing SoCal right now. They're feeding them. They're staging everything there. Our community is our heart and soul, and I'm so happy that our school district is a big part of that. And I don't want to go on and on, but I love this community, and I love this area that we live in, and everybody in this community is just awesome. And I am really proud of all our former students. From some of them are battalion chiefs and fire captains, and they're up here. They're local contractors that are driving skid steers and snow plows and delivering food. And I'm just so happy to see that. It's awesome. And I'm just happy to be a part of it. So my heart goes out to everybody, and I applaud you.
And for everyone else, Scott's been out there digging people out too, spending a lot of time in the snow himself personally. So Scott, thank you for what you've been doing. And then he's been, how much snow were you covered by, Mr. Zarate? Or Trustee Area 5, Jordan Zarate?
Yeah, Snow Valley reported over 12 feet of snow. So it's, I'm sorry, I think there's a little bit of an echo.
Yep.
How's this? Okay, great. All right. It's been a heck of a storm. We'll look back on this and talk about the old blizzard of 23. But it's been really tough, and I'm glad that I'm very thankful that we've had a leader at our district working to bring anything and everything needed to our communities, whether that was just raising awareness, advocacy, or coordinating where a helicopter is going to land. I really appreciate all of the work that you've done on this, Dr. Fricker. I've received from the neighbors that I've been able to interact with praise for the school district's communications. It's been very nice to be able to see all of that. It's been a hard storm. Personally for me, I don't have my vehicle anymore. I will be without my vehicle for quite some time because of damage that happened to it. So I wish I could be more out there in the community. I myself am dug out, but I don't have a means of transportation. So that's frustrating. Like Cindy was saying, is all of us are out in our communities doing all kinds of things. And it's frustrating when you feel like you can't contribute as much as you would be able to if only you had, a car, for example. So I've been very thankful for that. Our whole neighborhood's been looking in on one another, bringing food to each other, digging each other out. I'm fortunate I don't have a lot of stairs or steps, so wasn't hard to dig out ourselves from our own home. But a lot of our neighbors have, 80 plus stairs that need to be dug out, and all of that weight needs to be kept off of it and, brought off their decks. And they also need to be able to get out. I feel thankful that I don't have those types of stairs, because I know that I can walk into a yard. The snow is taller than me, sure, but at least I can do that, where if I needed to, where some of our neighbors don't have those options, or the snow just falling right in front of their house and they can't open their door. I've also been, because I don't have my car, I've been a patron of some of our food distribution sites. So I went to CHE's food distribution site today. Thankfully, I was able to get a ride from Mountain Transit and get some groceries that we needed. I was really anticipating to be able to go to the grocery store this week after I got my car dug out, but turns out my car wasn't in a drivable state. So that's unfortunate, but I'm glad to have gone there and seen all of the community there, to see the pallets that are now there of water that took probably too long. But, that's a conversation that we can have another time with the county and other agencies of what can we do to better prepare ourselves? What can be done to better allow us to take care of each other in the event of emergencies? Do we need more Red Cross disaster trailers throughout our community? Do we need that storage space? What equipment is needed? Because we know now that those county resources might not be available right when it's needed, that they're going to take time to get up here. So we can look towards that. But like I was saying, it was really nice to be able to see all of the, we had teachers there, running this food distribution center. We had volunteers there. We had all kinds of wonderful donations coordinated from all throughout the community and from Dr. Fricker herself, talking to large companies like Costco, like REI and so forth, just to get donations up here, to get those goods so that we can have what we need. Ms. Daly was there and has gone through her own, hard blizzard experience, as we all have, but she was there and she was managing everything and she was glad to be there. And it's just nice to see, like Scott was saying, this community really come together when we know that no one else is, or it's going to take a long time for them to. So I think there's a lot of advocacy work to be done. During the event itself, I think a lot of us realized at some point that this was a much larger disaster than anyone realized. And feeling trapped in your homes, that's when the advocacy efforts really started. I know Dr. Fricker and our board president were really pushing hard advocacy efforts up to our county supervisor, Rao, up to our state assembly member, up to Lackey, up to our state senator, Rosalicia Ochoa, up to our congressman, Jay Obernolte, up to the governor, Newsom. And I know that they put a lot of time and effort into those advocacy efforts. I spent some time doing some advocacy work as well and coordinating some, help welfare checks for elderly residents I know are in the area, with Supervisor Rao, with Mountain Transit, and with our state senator, Ochoa, but it paled in comparison to the advocacy efforts of Dr. Fricker and our board president here. It was really amazing to see how much we as a district mobilized when no one else was, to see that, Dr. Fricker and maybe one or two other employees opening up disaster relief centers by themselves, when those really ought to have been things where the district is the venue and Red Cross is running the show. And when we saw that that wasn't happening, that didn't stop Dr. Fricker or this district from continuing to do that work. So we're not out of the woods yet. I know we live in the woods, but we're not out of them, so to speak, yet, because we do have a lot of rain coming in. And I don't know what that is going to do, but I know that that's going to be a secondary disaster on top of what we're already facing. And we need to continue those advocacy efforts. I think Dana brings up a great point about we generate a lot of tourism dollars. A majority of those dollars are generated through the TOT, the transient occupancy tax. 100% of those dollars go to San Bernardino County, and they do not reallocate that money back to our mountain communities. Maybe that's something that we can talk about and work on from an advocacy perspective. They do small grant programs that go to the chambers of commerce on our mountain. That's a recent program, relatively young. So we'll have to, I think it's a great idea to revisit that and see what we can better do to protect our communities, because our roads have been closed since Thursday, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago now, might have been 2 weeks ago. Our highways were closed, and they're still closed technically, only open to residents at this time. So that's really something that we have to do a lot of advocacy efforts around of what can we do if this storm has taken us at this community out of the game, so to speak, for this long a period of time. What will another disaster do up here? And how long will we need to be prepared for that? So I think there's a lot of work that we can do as a board to push up that advocacy and raise that awareness in conjunction with other members of our community, like Scott was talking about. We have really wonderful community members that have the means and ability to go out and raise the profile of our mountain communities themselves. So we do need to work on that all together. I know we're all exhausted from shoveling, so I'll leave it there, and that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Zarate. And by the way, a lot of people, it's been neighbors helping neighbors. Churches have been a big part of this. Other community organizations have been a part of it. Dr. Fricker's obviously been a big part of it. But I also want to make a comment about one of our graduates, Mike Johnstone, who actually had a very painful loss in their store at Goodwin's grocery store, Goodwin's and Sons grocery store. And yet Mike has been demonstrating to the community what you do when you're hurting and when you lose pretty much everything. He's still been out there bringing things out of storage and all. He's been doing the food distributions and all at his property and continue to try to make a difference in our community. And that's one of our graduates. So thank you, Mike Johnstone. With that, I'm going to turn over to our superintendent, who probably is so worn out, doesn't have anything to say. Dr. Fricker.
Actually, Scott had his hand up, so I'll let him go. Can I let him?
I just wanted to comment, that's a great example, Bill. I'm glad you brought that up. Goodwin's Market has been up here for, I don't know how long, before my time,
75
probably.
years.
But it's not just Goodwin's Market. It's everybody involved in Goodwin's Market. The whole family has gone through Rim of the World High School, and they're all involved in the community. They've gone through the school. And that's what's so unique to our mountain is all our local business owners and workers are all from mostly Rim of the World High School. And that's what we get our support from. And that's what makes our community so unique, is because they care so much about this mountain. And I don't think I could ever live anywhere else other than this community. It's just awesome. And I just applaud Goodwin's and what they do, and my heart goes out to them and all their struggles that they're dealing with right now. And Mike Johnstone is an awesome kid, his whole family, everybody, Bridget and everybody that has ever been working there and supports them. They're just amazing. So my heart goes out to them for everything they're dealing with.
So, Dr. Fricker, did you just yield your time to?
I think I did. I'm going to take a little bit of time. because there's so many people that I need to thank. And first and foremost, I want to thank all of you, the board, for hiring me and for bringing me here. I grew up on the Canadian border. I've seen blizzard and blizzard and blizzard. I never in my wildest dreams thought I would have to lead an entire district and 17 independent communities through a blizzard. But truly it would be no different from where I came from. It is the word home in every single sense. And so to see my community, the 17 communities that we represent, hurt was extremely difficult, extremely hard. I know Bill and I have had many conversations. Bill has been such a support for me through this. And so thank you, first and foremost, Mr. President, for doing that for me. I want to thank my my right and left hand, Jenny Haberlin and Shannon Hansen. There were times where I would just email, text, I need this information. Where does this information come from? How do I get to this? What does this look like? And they literally, I think, dropped everything at that second's notice, and just, got what I needed at the time that I needed it, and then took over things that that needed to get done just in the runnings and the functionings of the district. And I didn't have to worry about that, which was such a relief, such a relief to have such an amazing team underneath me. I do want to thank, beyond words, Brian Williamsey, best hire, I think, ever. Because one of the big heartbreaks for me is that there was an avalanche on the 18 between Running Springs and Lake Arrowhead. So they were completely severed. You couldn't get up to Big Bear because of the Arctic Circle, and there were that was impassable. You couldn't get down the mountain on the 330, and you couldn't get across the 18 to us to any sort of help and salvation over on this side. And so those citizens, especially when their roofs started to collapse and become compromised, and they had to evacuate and become displaced, Brian just said, I'll go. I'll get keys. I'll go. We'll figure it out. And opening up a shelter is daunting if you've never had to open one before. I don't know what the community would have done without him. He is a hero in all forms, aspects of that word. In that community, we opened up our food services, pantries and freezers and refrigerators. And he's like, I don't know, my mom will come over and help me make meals. And that's really what happened. Like, that's really how that happened. I know firsthand, in the beginning of the storm, I just want to thank Lieutenant Harris. There's just no words for that man. He is an amazing force on this mountain. And calls me up and he says, Kim, I need to start evacuating people. And at that point, Sergeant Whiteside pulled me out of a 10-foot snowbank, went down to LGEC, and we opened up that as the first shelter, and we started receiving medically fragile patients who came in there. Melissa lives in Cedar Pines Park, and she was our first rescue victim, wheelchair bound and, medically fragile. And she just texted me saying that she was home today. So that was kind of that full circle moment for me. But there's so many people. Brian Keeney also helped Brian Williamsey over at the CHE shelter, which was completely owned and operated by the district. We never got Red Cross support on that one. After LGEC was opened, we then opened up Rim High School. So I've stayed a couple nights in the shelters. And before the Red Cross got here and relieved that site and took over that site. So I was grateful to the Red Cross for that. Joe Barra, the fire chief, amazing. Anything that I needed, anything that he needed, he and then Lieutenant Harris and myself just in tandem, at least for the first 3 days of the storm. And then after that was the big awareness. It's like after 3-4 days, then help starts arriving, but you have to get yourself through the first 3 to 4 days before that help starts coming up this mountain, or you can start relying on other services that are coming in to assist. So definitely them. Humongous thank you to Jim Zimmer, who I'm sitting at the high school on the phone with him going, how do I turn the boilers back on? What blower switches what maintenance does my key open that door? And, you see this daunting train, industrial equipment. And I'm like, I felt so small at that moment. I think that was probably one of those things. I'm like, he's like, don't worry, I'm just going to talk you back into it. I'm going to talk you into it. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, anyway, so that was a moment. Thank you, Jim. He knows the buildings so incredibly well that he's just a huge force and asset for us. Jen Kaywell, first of all, transporting kids down the mountain to safety, transporting our kids back up the mountain with safety. We knew we had one shot. We had a tiny window on Monday to get those kids transported down. And then we didn't know how long that they would have to last or stay on the mountain with food and shelter and that sort of thing. So she has done an amazing job. I did tell Jim and Jen, I declare myself as an honorary M&O worker, because when you're unloading semi trucks and box trucks and towing trucks of pallets and pallets and pallets of food and resources and supplies by hand, because you didn't and couldn't use a forklift, and you had to figure out how are you going to do that. Your rank and file, it does not matter. Like, you become an instant family, and it was cold and it was blizzarding, and I'm surprised we didn't get frostbite, but you do it, and you figure out all those ins and outs and ways that you can do it. I think even in the snowcats, they got stuck. I've been on so many snowcats and loaders, I don't even know, but they got stuck, and we're going up this very treacherous road to deliver food and try to unbury an 80-year-old couple who needed medical help. And there was this gentleman who walked out of his house with a shovel. He's like, you need help? And we're like, yes. And it's the middle of the night. It's the middle of the night. It's not even daytime. And he starts digging out this snowcat, and the gentleman who's driving me says, be careful, we have very precious cargo. And he's like, who's your cargo? And he's like, listen, I got to get the superintendent through. And this is when I was going up to parts of Running Springs and Arrow Bear. And so this gentleman says, he puts down his shovel, he takes off his glove, he reaches out his hand to shake my hand. And he's like, oh my gosh, like, it's an honor. He's like, I have not been the best person in the world. I've gone through Rouen School District. I think every superintendent I've ever had wanted to kick me out over him. And he's like, I live in the community, and he had a child inside. I said, and his name was Shannon. I said, Shannon, it doesn't matter what your past is. It doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter who you are. You are a beautiful, wonderful human being tonight. And I said, you are redeeming yourself for every past mistake you've ever made. And he was so apologetic to me. And I'm like, forget it. The slate is wiped clean tonight. And he dug out that snowcat, and we did get through. So, I will go back to that road. I will find Shannon. I will deliver something on his porch. Because truly you have angels across this mountain. And there were so many that showed up. When I would call, the Chief Lupier was down at the command center. What was really difficult is most of the people in command center, the tactical operations team, were off of this mountain, and there were literally very, very few people on the mountain reporting from the mountain. This is what the needs are of the mountain. How do we get this? How do we get that? I need this. I need that. And there was one point where Lupier just called me. He's like, what do you need? And I said, I have to feed these people. I have to feed Running Springs. I have to feed VOE, especially after Goodwin's went down. And he's like, okay, and just devising a plan, literally offline, landing helicopter. It was crazy how you tried to figure out how to meet the need as the needs were just coming and mounting. I mean, the needs were as big as the mountain was, and that's kind of how it felt. But I do think I could not have done it without the team that we have in place here, the administration that we have in place here. They really afforded me the time to almost 100% solely focus on it, troubleshoot. And every single time I would call Joe Barra, every time I would call Lieutenant Harris, they picked up like on the spot. And what do you need? How can I help you? Okay, I can do that. And that is just because these people love this mountain. They're residents of this mountain. They're longtime residents of this mountain. And it was really a one for all for one initiative. And it was actually probably the hardest thing I've ever done, but the kindness, the gratitude. I was handing out chocolate milk in these very long lines, and people would just stand in line for food for hours, and there were no complaints. There were no fights. It was just gratitude. It was just gratefulness. It was just pouring out of the lines and just handing chocolate milk to families. They would grab you and just say, thank you, thank you, thank you for everything that you're doing. And it wasn't everything that I was doing. It was everything that this whole district was doing to support this effort. And so I think as we go from this emergency stage to now a recovery stage, it will take time. We have families who don't have homes any longer. I just want to thank our true friends of Costco. They airlifted more food in here. We were the first agency that really went around the county a little bit to drop in produce on the mountain and get produce back on the mountain. Because after 7 days, 8 days, you didn't have access to produce. So that was a big thing, emptying our refrigerators full of milk and cheese to the community and children who didn't have milk and were cut off from milk for days was a very, very good thing. Thank you, Lisa, for allowing me to just empty your refrigerators. And then all of our administrative team who made that happen. They're like, I don't care. I have a truck. I'll get it over to wherever you need. You just tell me, and so everyone jumped in. Everybody was a huge part of this. I was definitely not the only one. I can't even take credit for it all, to be honest. But as we go into the reopening of the schools, obviously we want to do them safely. There are so many inspections. I'm going to go through there, just reopening super quick. There's so many inspections that we have to have on buses, on all of our facilities and our structures. There was so much snow on the roofs. There was so much snow on our buses that we do want to make sure that they're in good working order and they pass inspection before we can open. The other thing that has been a huge concern is just the gas leaks that have been across the mountain. All of our sites have to be checked, and the pipelines have to be checked for gas leaks. And so we have a combination of SoCal Edison or SoCal Fire and County Fire and SoCal Gas to go through and check our buildings before we reopen them, because we want our students and our staff to be safe when they do come back on campus. We have so many of our sites hosting staging facilities and or food distribution and shelters. And I know that there's so many people on the mountain that in all of the agencies that have been up here 24/7, that all of our accommodations are full. So some people actually, I know that SoCal Edison and SoCal Gas are sleeping at the high school. They're just to accommodate all of the workers that they brought up to the mountain. So we are feeding them, we're housing them. All of those things on our school sites are going to have to gradually dissipate and then allow us to kind of re-move back into our schools, which most people don't think about. Our schools have not been emptied. All of them in some way, shape, or form have been used at this effort. So that will all have to kind of return to normal for us to have staff and students back. We are the cleaning effort of not only our parking lots, but also all of the walkways, the internal spaces, the play yards, that all is being worked on and done. I know that Jim Zimmer, he spent the night on the mountain last night clearing snow from Rim High. That is just the phenomenal dedication that an effort that you can't, there's no way to ask these people to do these things. They just, because they love this place, they just do it. And that's the beautiful, beautiful part of it. I do, being up here, understanding the mountain to the degree that I do, which I don't understand. I've gotten a crash course in the mountain over the past couple of weeks, but understanding, and thank you, Jen K-Well, for understanding that even to transport our students again, we have to have cleared bus stops and demarcated bus stops, because when you go around certain areas, the snowbanks, the walls are so high, you can't see if a child is standing at what would normally have been a bus stop. And so safety is paramount. And I did express that to the county several times. Big advocacy in the past week is, I understand you're clearing county roads. I'm so sorry. You got to clear non-county roads. I have students, young children, families trapped on non-county roads. It's just not acceptable that you don't plow non-county roads. So non-county roads are getting plowed. It's those things where you're like, no, that's not acceptable. I will keep talking until someone does something. Right. And I'll talk to you. And finally, I know, President, when I was talking to Bill, I just said, they're just reached this point where I'm like, I had enough. And he's like, well, you should call someone else. I said, I'm going to. And Highway 18 got open. Like, we can't continue to support the amount of residents with the depleted supplies and the lack of grocery stores. And I feel awful for those grocery stores that are no longer in service. But when Goodwin's collapsed, there was such a panic that it was like a wave that came through my phone, my email, everything blew up that day. And you could just feel the need of, oh my God, where are we going to get food? And so opening up highways, clearing county roads, clearing bus stops is definitely something that we, the school district, advocated strongly for. We are putting in a plan to send out, and we have sent out staff and student surveys. So we are going to get real-time information back for them, which will help us do and conduct our reopening plan. And I know that Shannon Hansen, thank you, Shannon, wherever you are sitting on the thread, is working on that reopening plan in conjunction with Jenny Haberlin. And they're really heading that up for the district. We're looking at extracurricular sports and adjustments, because obviously everything that we have is under snow. And so that's going to tax our transportation system, getting people up and down, students up and down the mountain to participate in those types of things. So they're working on a plan for that. Jenny, I know, is working on attendance waivers. We haven't gotten any word back, but once we do, then we'll know more and we'll publish that information. We're filing insurance damage claims, if there are any, across the mountain for our buildings after they get surveyed and inspected. Principals are developing welcome back plans. I know for staff and students, we do have the intention to bring back. Thank you, Ungazi RTA. I know that thank you, Shannon, has been in contact with RTA and has meetings with them as to how do we reopen, what are the needs, how do we meet those needs, and having staff come back on at least one day prior to students to make sure that classrooms are cleaned and put back in working order, and that staff has time with each other to reconnect with each other. I think that's really important. And then I know that Shannon's also working on social and emotional needs of students, along with Heather Dominguez. And how do we have talking points for staff? How do we talk to students about this when they do come back on campus? Because it was a traumatic event. It is a traumatic event. And so how do we get students back on? And those that need social emotional support, how do we gain or have a plan for them to gain access to counselors and other social emotional support individuals that can help them kind of work through some of the things that they have been through. We have to restock food distribution, because I depleted all of our food distribution, our food services department I've depleted. So we have to have a couple days to restock that. And then making sure that all those ingress egress points, because most of the snow has pushed up against some of the doors. And so there are regulations as to how many doors we have to have and the flow of people in and out of such a public building. So that's really important for us to make sure that that, you know, we make sure that the schools are as safe as humanly possible for our staff and students to come back. So that's really what my team's been working on throughout this whole event. I did tell the Board of Education, I said, I'm going to hibernate for like 2 days. So if I do, that's going to be, that'll be my gift back because it has been 24/7. But I will say just the patience, the kindness, the generosity of neighbor to neighbor and people across this mountain, it is everything, truly, truly, truly everything a community and a family and a groups of communities together should be for one another. And so it really was the best of humanity on display in the absolute worst of circumstances. You know, there has been loss of life, there has been loss of structure, and, you know, we will deal with that. We will recover in the months to come and maybe in the year to come. But I just want to thank everyone. I want to thank everyone who has supported me in helping navigate our district and the 17 communities through this crisis, this event. So anyway, that's my comments. Thank you so much.
Once again, on behalf of the school board, on behalf of the school district, on behalf of the community, Kim, thank you for all that you've done, and thank all of our team and across the district for all of the people and what they've given. And again, it really is. It's been a whole community. So thank you, Kim. With that, we're going to move to student representatives. Michelle Higuera does not have an actual report. However, Michelle, please come on and just tell us how you are and tell us anything you want to say about looking forward to coming back to school. Michelle, please.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope you guys all have been well during this whole time. I know I got lucky enough not to like get any damage or anything like that. We did get snowed in plenty, but that's, I mean, compared to other people, which is really unfortunate to hear that a lot of people went through a lot of hard stuff during this storm. We did get lucky enough. And I mean, what other people said about just the community getting together and just we're all helping each other out. In my street, there was many times like during the days where I would go out and I would see a lot of people just helping each other shovel and just we're all just cleaning our street because the machines weren't like working. But it's been a pretty challenging time for a lot of us. I know my siblings, they're getting really angsty of just like staying at home, but we're working on that, you know. And I'm really excited to go back to school because I miss just seeing people and just having some interaction, you know. But yeah, it's been but we're working through it, you know, just like anyone else. But yeah, it's really all I have to say.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for representing the students who I'm sure are looking forward to coming back. I think there's probably a few moms and dads and grandparents looking forward to students going back too. So thank you, Michelle. Reports and presentations, 11.1, the budget, average daily attendance. Oh, Jenny, no attendance for the last 2 weeks. What are you going to do?
I know. Well, we have a plan for that.
And
You know,
second interim financial report. Okay, Jenny Haberlin.
okay, I'm going to need to share my screen,
Please
but
do.
with yes, so hopefully I'm going to try that here in a second here. It's letting me do it. So and then we'll if everything works out the way we are planning, then the waiver for these attendance days will be brought for the Board of Trustees to approve on March 30th board meeting. Then we'll submit that to the county. Then the county submits that to the CDE on our behalf. So that's the progress that waiver will take. So I haven't done this in a while since COVID, with presenting via Zoom for you. I know we do this with the budget committee, but so hopefully it all works out okay. And so thank you for having me here today. So I know it's I'm glad that you're all safe. I know it's been tough, just trying to navigate you know, our work, our homes, and the disaster, and our families, and just everything that went with what's been happening the last 14 days. So I'm just going to get right to it. A lot of the second interim report, we've talked about first interim. We talked about after the governor's budget in January. We haven't had an attendance month close since last board meeting. So I think we're going to be able to get through it pretty fast. I'm going to kind of blow through some slides pretty quickly. You have a copy of this report in your board folder. And so if you can't open that, or if you can't find it, just let me know and I can make sure I get that to you. But as you know, we're required by law to bring the second interim report to you by March 15th. So we have our board meeting prior to that, and we have a little bit earlier deadline to the County Office of Education, who oversees our budgets and reviews them. So all of that was turned in on Tuesday, although some items that get turned in by hand had to be scanned and PDF'd and uploaded to them, because of course we're not going up and down the hill. And so my advisor at the county was very, thankfully, I was able to send her PDF versions of things that would normally be a paper version. And so she printed those out on our behalf. So we've got a great relationship with our county office. So what's included in the second interim financial report is, of course, attendance and enrollment, our financial activity through January 31st, various financial assumptions, updated multi-year projection, and a revised budget update. You know that there are 3 types of certifications that a district could report, and we are again reporting a positive, self-reporting a positive certification for you tonight. Okay, and of course this all ties into what our board goals are. I'm going to try to move my screen a little bit. There's a bar that's a little bit. Yeah, just had to move something by hand so I can see my whole screen. Oop. It'll let me turn the next page. There we go. Okay, month 7 enrollment ended, the attendance month ended on February 24th. So normally between February 24th and today, we would have already been receiving attendance and enrollment information from the sites. Of course, the last time we were open was the 22nd, I believe. And so of course, sites haven't been there, and we haven't been in the office to do that work. So we will be doing month 7 once we reopen, and once sites can get in there and attendance accountants can work with their principals. And so I did want to highlight, though you've seen these numbers before, is our CBEDS enrollment trends. So our 22-23 CBEDS date, and for those of you who don't know what CBEDS is, it's kind of our census date. So the first Wednesday of October, the entire state of California, we give what's a census of our enrollment. Ties into CalPADS, and then that's certified in December. But our census date is October, is a good relative number to see what our enrollment's doing year by year. Year by year, and it's also what's used in calculating our LCFF. So in 22-23, our enrollment was 2,894. And so I believe that's really close, within 5 or 10 students from what it's been. It's been pretty steady all year. And our projected enrollment through 26, 27, these numbers have not changed since I've last revised our budget. Why I highlighted them in yellow though, is because what will this latest snowstorm do to our enrollment? Okay, that has been a topic of conversation that we have. I think a couple years ago, I'm not really, could have been 5 years ago, but in my memory, it's been 2 or 3 years ago. We did go back and look at events such as fires, such as like the crash of 2007, some when gas prices and truck prices, and when there's been statewide or national events, it did correlate with a higher degree of enrollment decline for our district. So, we had 330 when that was washed away after the fires. We had things like Norton Air Force Base close, and things like that impacted our community. So I highlighted those in yellow because, we really won't know until the students come back in August, or until, we start hearing from when principals survey their families, or, like when my kids were in school, we would get that springtime, memo, are you coming back next year? So, that is, I highlighted this in yellow so we could just be aware that right now, I think we're very conservative on our enrollment decline. I know a lot of people were hoping that we would, not have a decline and actually grow. But, we did talk a couple board meetings ago that we do have some larger classes that even if everyone stayed, we're going to see some natural decline just in the size of our, some large, especially our 10th grade class this year, when that class graduates. So I wanted to highlight that for you. That'll be something that we'll watch and have a future conversation on. Okay, again, same information. It was just kind of the Excel table that it pulled from. I wanted you to be able to have that in your notes on what the decline is and the number projected going into through fiscal year 26, 27. This is more for your information for later that you can look at your leisure. Okay, one of the things that that goes into the revised budget and looking forward to the multi-year projections is what are our budget assumptions. And I wanted to lay out here what our COLA assumptions are. Of course, in 22-23, we had the COLA plus the super COLA, they called it, to add to the base, so 13.26%. And I think that's what, we've talked about when the May revise happens, but then, the governor enacts its budget and there's an increase in funding. And then, we readjust our books and we may make other decisions because of it. So in 23, 24, 24, 25, and 25, 26, our budget used for this second interim report was the enacted budget's COLA assumptions. So 538, 402, 372 that you see there. But in the governor's proposed budget in January, he is proposing a COLA going into next year of 8.13, 3.54, and 3.31 respectively through fiscal year 25, 26. So that'll be something if that maintains and is part of, we have a couple more quarters now since that number was calculated for the COLA. When we're building next year's budget, we'll use the May revise assumptions. And so we may have a revision up or down based on that going into budget, the proposed budget for 23, 24. Okay, this is just a summary of LCFF revenue. And you can see that from, it looks like my headings, let's see. It's funny because I'm not on my laptop. I'm just not seeing everything correctly. Okay. I can't see all of my screen for some reason right now. I think this slide made it a little bit too big on my view. But you can see in 22-23 that we did have our largest increase in LCFF revenue, and that was basically because of the added COLA. But going forward, with 23, 24, 24, 25, 25, 26, and 26, 27, you can see due to enrollment decline, even with a COLA, that we do our increases to LCFF get gradually smaller. And in 25, 26, actually will have a negative year over year LCFF, a total LCFF. So just because we have a stated COLA, let's say of 5%, doesn't necessarily equate when you look at the actual dollars that you get the next year. It's not necessarily every district gets 8% more that next year regardless, because you have to factor in your enrollment and your specifics to your supplemental concentration grant and your unduplicated pupil count. I think this isn't unusual. I mean, I think you would be expecting this. It probably hasn't changed much from first interim, but I don't have first interim right at my fingertips right here. I'd have to look at my personal computer. Okay, this is just what makes up our total LCFF. We have, 35,776,201. And of that, we really want to focus on, well, what's our base? Our adjusted base, is just over $29 million. That's because of our total LCFF. For those of you who may be listening that haven't been part of some of our budget conversations, if you go back, you notice on this graph, and this is a FCMAT graph, I didn't make it up myself. So the 2012-13 award level, that's when we combined all the prior categorical funding dollars and collapsed those into to an LCFF model, where although Newsom's getting away from more base dollars and actually adding back categorical accounts, that arrow represents, okay, where was our award level in 2012-13? And, do we want to strive, that was kind of our target with LCFF. And I wanted to make a note of that because there was two components of LCFF with the intention of the law. Was number one, to kind of have us be at the 2012-13 prior level of revenue limit and categoricals, but also have the spending power of 2007-2008.
Jenny, could you pause just for a minute,
Uh-huh.
because we're trying to clarify anytime we use something like LCFF, what is that?
Local control funding formula. It's an allocation method that the state uses to fund school districts.
Thank
Public
you.
school districts. Mhm.
The board all knows, but I just wanted it stated publicly.
Yeah, well, thank you. And so I sometimes, we assume that people can read our minds, right? So really, and you've heard this from me before, why I would want to bring it up is because being fully funded under this model doesn't necessarily give us the spending and purchasing power that's adequate for schools, because the whole premise behind the law was getting to a 10-year-old, 15-year-old purchasing power, so in dollar amount. And we know just in the last 3 years, gas prices and we have things like raises and step and column and health and welfare benefits that go up, and roofs that need to be repaired, and pipes that break. So, so that is what I think that they did a good job, with this graph to kind of give it of the 35 million, really the intention of that is to also fund a lot of prior programs that were funded with prior categorical dollars. you would account for different, you would view them differently, you would, you would negotiate differently, under those circumstances. So, and then the one other thing I wanted to point out is like our add-on to home to school transportation. Now, this slide, they combine a couple other items, but our add-on to transportation is just over 1.4 million. And because we already receive transportation funding, the way the new transportation dollars are allocated is they take your expenditures times 60%. And whatever that dollar amount is, if you're already getting that in your add-on, you don't get any more funding. So right now, our add-on to the LCFF calculation already exceeds, not by much, but exceeds that 60% threshold. And that's why, we're not receiving those transportation dollars. I'm asked that a lot. We get a lot of vendor calls even, because I think districts, across the state have this new money, and vendors are going to help them spend it because a district that hasn't provided transportation needs buses or needs a contractor or needs need to hire. So that we do get a lot of questions about why, and that is why I know we've talked about it before also. This is our current COLA, STRS and PERS increases. And what I wanted to make note is moving forward through 26, 27. And if it comes to fruition, the PERS rate, actually, that you see that in a kind of a red orange, the PERS rate by 2026-27 is estimated to be 29.2%. So that is really almost 30% of every payroll dollar is going to go straight to PERS. So, and then, of course, you have unemployment insurance, you have workers' comp, you have your Social Security, Medicare, and items like that. But right now it's at 27 for PERS, 19.1 for STRS, but it will be a change come budget development to if the 2026 year goes up to the 29.2. And the one-time monies that the governor said, proposed that we could fund these increases with, he's also proposed to cut that by a third. So we'll see what happens at the May revise for that also. I try not to be all bad news. I promise I'll try not to be all bad news. So, and this is more, people would like, it's a picture kind of gives 1,000 words on, what percent of our total budgeted expenditures, what makes up that, in a percent of our total budget, what are we spending our dollars on? And one of the things I don't know if people can see it on their computers very much, but you do have the slides. And once we get back to my budget presentations are always uploaded onto the business's website. But 22% of our budget goes directly to employee benefits. And that's, yes, it STRS, PERS, health and welfare. That number doesn't include what we also pay for retirees. That's up, that where we're chipping away at some of that old debt too from Golden Handshakes. So about 3% of our budget is for retiree benefits and the Golden Handshake payments. Okay, this is a summarized view of our current working budget. So total revenue on unrestricted and restricted side, it's really, some people will ask, well, what about the lottery? And so you'll see other state revenue, the 581,226, that is more than just lottery, but that would include things such as lottery. And so as you can see, since it's a multiple items, the lottery doesn't completely fund our budget. And that's a misnomer also. Sometimes people say, well, what about the lottery? You should be, swimming in money. Really, we don't get, we don't get as much as people think in lottery funds. Okay, on the expenditure side, now on the unrestricted and on and the restricted side, the 71% of our budget, that's salaries and benefits. Okay, it's a little bit deceiving right now with all the one-time dollars, because we have so much more one-time dollars right now with the ESSER funds that we're buying more stuff with, or we have allocated for things that will improve our facilities and equipment. So where that's budgeted down in the services contracted and utilities. So normally that 71% is much higher for our district. But right now, with all the one-time dollars, that's really not funding a lot of payroll right now. That's lower, but it's almost like artificial because of the infusion of one-time dollars. But once the one-time dollars are fully expended and we don't anticipate getting a lot more, you'll see that more in the 85% range, 85% range. Next couple slides, they're kind of busy, but I wanted you to have them more for your information than to go over them right now. So this is just a continuation of, and you've seen it before in our presentations, what is the ending fund balance for the current year, and then the next 2 subsequent years based on revenue less expenditures after the reserves, and then the 25, 26, and 26, 27. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this slide because the second interim budget right now does not have the current, the teacher settlement that's on the board meeting for you to approve tonight, because really you haven't approved it yet. So I did for us though, I have a multi-year projection spreadsheet that you've all seen it, kind of my Excel spreadsheet. I did one for the second interim, and then I did another one with the placeholder for the RTA settlement, placeholder for other budgetary items that are coming our way, and some of those placeholders that we've talked about on, changes into next year and the third year. So, but right now, because you haven't board approved that yet, I have like 2 budgets going. Okay, and our components of our reserves. One of the things I'd like to mention is that in June, when we bring the proposed budget to you, we will also bring, we'll revisit that resolution where you committed some funds, because we committed those funds prior to the enacted state budget. So we had a lot more deficit spending mitigation. We had declining enrollment. So our enrollments change. We'll have to recalculate some of these numbers, and we'll revisit what you want to hold in reserves and what you want to commit and what you want to have available maybe for other priorities. So we will bring that to you in June. Okay, so with our kind of a draft multi-year projection with some other items in it, what we're really looking is that our ending fund balance, we're positive in the current budget cycle in 22, 23, 23, 24, 24, 25, and without changes to the budget. And if everything stayed the same as they were like this, this week, we would go into 25, 26 and 26, 27 with negative ending fund balance. So this is a very draft look, but that would be like these 2 multi-year projections that we're working on simultaneously. This one has the placeholders for the different settlements and other items that we've discussed. And that's just a detail of, this is bottom line, and then we have some detail going what makes up the reserves. And a lot of time, one of the things what we've talked about was, if we don't need this declining enrollment and deficit spending mitigation commitment, then these numbers down here don't become, they aren't negative really anymore, right? But because that board action hasn't happened, I can't put it in my numbers yet. So really, when you look at, well, are we really negative 1.5? You know, not really, because here's 1.9 right here. So that was set aside before the 13.26 COLA. So it's you know, we have a lot of moving pieces right now that will revisit, but you know, until that board action happens, I have to hold it in reserves, but we can talk about it going, you know, do we really need it there? Or can it be part of the bottom line? Okay. This is a graph that I know School Services does their own, and I think Mike Fine at FCMAT was the one that created it and suggested districts do it on their own. And then we have another graphic coming. I just didn't have a chance this week to do it, but we have on an ADA basis, you know, what is I'm sorry, we have the current year average COLA for 22-23 of 1,218 and 527 for 23-24 and 414 for 24-25. I know the future COLAs may change. And then on a per ADA basis, what is our expenditures, and kind of equated that into dollars, that of this 1,218 per ADA, you know, what portion is step and column? What portion was the STRS contribution? What portion is this PERS? I highlighted that in yellow because these numbers here, my budget does not have the potential increases. Okay. So, and I just wasn't going to be able to calculate that this week. So, you know, what is our health and welfare? What is the contribution to regular transportation? What is our contribution to special ed transportation? And then what is our special ed contribution, you know, to as a whole? So, I mean, and this week, there's other funds that go into the special ed, but really the amount that's taken out of the base is the contribution from the base. So that's what that represents. So you can see, even though there's a very hefty COLA right now, it's still on a, you know, per ADA basis. There's a lot of commitments that are out of our control, before we even reprioritize that funding. And so why I'm sharing this with you is a COLA only environment really doesn't help school districts. We need a greater than COLA, and that means the state needs to fund us at not the minimum guarantee, but a higher amount than the guarantee. I know we talked about advocacy, this today a lot, the calls we've made and emails. I didn't get an answer from Obernolte or the governor, but I actually did have Senator Ochobo's office call me back. So, and I thought that was really cool, actually. So I was like, they called me back, and, I must have been very compelling. And I called on behalf of me personally. I was not representing the school district, but we had something unique to us here. And I was, on a personal and neighborhood situation. And so I was like, I happened to mention I worked for the school district, and that there was a lot going on, but I wasn't speaking for the school district, and I was speaking about me personally. And the next day, someone from her office called me and said, what about this? What about that? So I was actually very thankful. But so advocacy does work sometimes. And so that would be, my short story long would be, that advocacy for funding greater than COLA. We need to continue, because you can just see by this slide that this isn't unique to RIM. This is any of us, right? So, in most school districts. And so a COLA only environment doesn't provide to cover even the basics at times. Okay, this is just a very snapshot of our summary of COVID response funds, excuse me. And then some of them are from in the very, very beginning of COVID. And our page 2 here is where we're at with some of the dollars that we still have to spend. So we do have our greatest pot still to identify and spend is the ESSER 3 learning loss. That was the most restrictive of the ESSERs and a little harder to spend. It's very staff probably intensive. And just being able to hire or have that extra duty and Saturdays, it's just been really tough. And then it's almost like we're competing with now ELOP, the Extended Learning Opportunity Program. We're like, that's very restrictive. And how are we going to spend that? And then this is the very restrictive, like the harder dollar amounts to spend is really what we're boiling down to. We do have some specific accounts for homeless. This homeless services, this 28,000, and then of the gear, the ESSER 3. The ESSER the ELOG 119. I'm sorry. Up here, of that amount that's left, $55,000 of that specifically has to be for homeless children and youth. And so between the two, we have, about over 80, about $80,000, over $80,000 that will go directly to homeless. And we might have now, because of the current events, and we definitely could probably prioritize some of those dollars too, because it's specific for our homeless children and youth. And so I'm sure we could, work with our sites on, now more than ever, what do some of those families need? Okay, so just next steps, we're going to monitor enrollment would be probably number 1 on my list, and how it relates to ADA. Our ADA, of course, our attendance, average daily attendance, will apply for the waiver, so that we'll be held harmless from this storm. I don't anticipate not getting approval for that. So, but it takes about 30 days for the state to give their, after they receive it, it takes them about 30 days to give an answer to the district. So then we'll be able to look at, okay, where we are with that waiver, but I don't anticipate a denial. We'll look at our multi-year projections, especially after May revise. And then, our continued collaboration with the different funding scenarios, and we have some restricted dollars to spend, and then, addressing the fiscal solvency in the future years. And with that, I can unshare my screen and I can see everybody, or does anyone have any questions? For Dana?
Yes. So obviously, past couple of weeks, we have spent a lot of money that was unanticipated for, and I don't regret us spending that money, but how does this all work? How do we reconcile all of this?
Okay, well, we already started working on some of that. So we have the USDA will reimburse us dollar for dollar for any USDA commodity food that was used for food distribution. Now, I don't know, Lisa hasn't done an inventory and I wasn't at the sites on, how much of that food that was given out was commodity food. So the USDA will reimburse us under those circumstances. The Red Cross will reimburse us for expenditures directly related for that they've requested. Okay, so if they were at a site, said, we are going to take all your bottles of water, that they will reimburse us for that. Then they have the state version of FEMA, and I don't have the acronym at the ready right now, then they will have an opportunity to reimburse us just like we would a FEMA claim. And that would probably be the lion's share. And then there's the Emergency Operations Center at the county level that, could allocate some funds for reimbursement. And that where we have a name, to be honest, we kind of said to ourselves, let's work on this next week, but there are conversations starting with me and Carrie and Lisa and Scott White in my office. And then we will have, if it's declared a federal disaster, then we'll put a claim in for FEMA, but that also includes employee time. So we've asked that I've asked myself, I guess, because I need to create it like a unique account number as we pay timesheets, that will have a unique account number for people who work directly related. And I would say it's mostly probably transportation and maintenance that came in and started clearing, sites and walkways, not because we were planning on coming back, but because we needed the sites access. So those timesheets will be tallied. And then to be honest, we'll just decide, well, what bucket does it best fit in? Does it best fit into the FEMA, the state version of FEMA? Is the county going to reimburse us for anything? And then I did look at Ed Code for one of the ELOG grants that is pretty restrictive, does have, and there's some money that needs to be spent by this September. I read it for, access to meals. We weren't taking names of the people that we were giving food to, but we were, we could, I think, have an argument that this was our students and that we were reaching mostly our students and families. So anything that might not be reimbursed from an agency, I feel that those fundings, and we haven't designated or allocated a purpose for them yet. We could, if we really had to spend, then reimburse out of our own coffers. There's some restricted dollars that we haven't spent yet that needs to be spent by September. We could fall back on that. And that's kind of when we were doing some other things, I did take a peek at Ed Code while we were saying hello to everyone at the start of the meeting. So, and I would feel confident that would be appropriate use of those funds. So, but yeah, we've already started looking at different ways. And of course, if there's any damage, we would file a claim with our JPA.
What about, I'm thinking in terms of specifically you, Shannon, Kim, you only have so much energy throughout a whole school year, and you already are incredibly taxed, wearing many different hats just to be able to take care of school business. Go ahead.
So I'm going to jump in too, and then I'm going to let Jenny answer.
Okay.
So in cases like this, you can have an MOU, because if you work beyond what your normal work year would be, you can have an MOU with the board. And for certificated, it's different from then classified in terms of hourly or days of service. And so you can handle it that way. We have talked briefly, because there are definitely other people that have had tremendous amount of hours in this relief and navigation of this relief effort. I mean, minus myself, I'm not speaking about myself. And so those are a couple ways, and Jenny probably has a more comprehensive, more eloquent way of saying it, but we've tried to at least quantify who did what and to what extent that we would need to make adjustment for.
Would it be possible for us to, with reimbursement, or I don't even know how, be able to get consultant help in the months that come after? Hopefully we are more on the recovery end of the storm, but I imagine your to-do list has really gotten backlogged and really even more overwhelming than it was before. is there a way that additional help can be brought in for you because of the work that you haven't been able to do in recent weeks?
We can look at that, and then I'm just going to pass it to Jenny about answering the part of your first question that I probably missed.
Okay.
Okay, under COVID, when COVID opened up and it was declared a federal emergency, and we started having an opportunity to claim expenditures with FEMA, FEMA didn't allow administrative time as part of the reimbursement, and we had tallied managerial time because of this exact situation. You know, where yes, we were getting our own work done, but then having to stay up till midnight to do other things, and you know, weekends impacted, and so, but we were able then, not through FEMA, we actually did get reimbursed for some of that managerial time at the county level. Now, so but that was, the county reached out and said, we have these grants, that we to spend. And we were like, oh, we already had backup because we already submitted to FEMA. We had logs and we had everything. And we're like, would this qualify? And they were like, perfect, send it in, because it was like one of those things where they had to spend their money real quick. And then that same revenue stream is how we got the servers. And so there was a county option at that time. So it wouldn't, I think we need to have that conversation with our supervisor's office, to say, oh, hey, out of, it might not be a emergency dollars, but what part of these, since we have to maybe apply to 5 different agencies for reimbursement just on food, that, could you then, say, what are you going to do to help RIM, especially, I agree with Jordan, don't get me started on maybe a Saturday night with talking about the taxes that are taken from the Airbnb, and not redistributed to our community. So, especially that I wasn't doing the digging, but my husband and neighbors, the Airbnb behind us, had a gas leak, and who's digging out their gas meters, so we were, but no. And I think that even some non-traditional ways of just saying to definitely the county level of what could you do to help RIM would be appropriate. And like I said earlier too, there are maybe for tasks, and I'm totally kind of just spitballing it here a little bit, for tasks that we need help with on a very, very temporary basis. If it qualifies, we have some restricted dollars that are tougher to spend. So if we were creative in what we assigned the duties to, we can see if we're not going to spend some money anyway, we reallocate that to, help with the SEL more, so it can free up someone else's time. I mean, I think that there's some brainstorming that's definitely available for all of us to do.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And so if there's no more questions, I can stop sharing.
A quick one, Jenny. How does the state define a homeless student, and what are our numbers for homeless students?
I might toss that over to Shannon. My memory is I could look it up quickly because I have the 117 from CalPADS. But the actual definition I know is a little, there's more pieces to it. I can give you a couple. My thought, we have 50 or 60. That might be an old number, Shannon.
Yeah. So a homeless person is where they don't have a permanent shelter to fall under. So with our McKinney-Vento families that are now McKinney-Vento, they don't know it yet. They might have been displaced with with the snowfall, so they're living at friend's house, and because of their houses, for whatever reason, they can't stay there. They are technically McKinney-Vento students. our homeless students. So that's a number that we've been talking about that we need to, and that's part of our survey is to find out, okay, has our number increased and how are we going to approach that? So that's part of the survey that we sent out, Bill.
Thanks, Shannon.
Welcome.
I don't see any other questions. We're going to move on then to reports and presentations. 12.1, board goals check-in. Any comments from the Board of Trustees? I see one nodding no. So I think we're going to move past board goals check-in to legislative update report. Trustee Gardner. 12.2.
Okay, so real quick at Sandabs this week, we did receive a budget update. I sent you guys a link to Kevin Gordon, Capital Advisors, little 13-minute video at Sandabs. Kevin is in Washington, D.C., so our former state superintendent, Jack O'Connell, who works for Capital Advisors now, stepped in to report. And just briefly on the budget, so far revenue has downturned $2 billion below where the projections were. So we're even down $2 billion more. There is $8.5 billion in Prop 98 reserves if needed. However, COLA, we're going to talk COLA for real quick. The governor proposed in his January 8.13, the legal analyst office, Bill, you will love no acronym, even though I was going to say LAO, but they are going with an 8.4% COLA. So the whole idea is like, how are you going to fund the COLA as revenues continue to decline? There's maybe not filling the COLA, which would give Jenny a heart attack, or as the governor has proposed, is doing these, I don't know, kind of scalpel reductions in his one-time monies, like the arts and music grant, reducing it by 1/3. That could help, be able to fund the COLA. Do we dip into the Prop 98 reserve? Yes, there is reserve. Do we do that? Maybe that the LAO office maybe suggested that we fund a COLA at 6%, below the 8% range. So there's a lot of talk about funding the COLA, about if we continue a downward trend, how is that going to relate in the May revise? The other big, huge unknown is that because of what has occurred all over the state with the state of emergency, California is pushing the taxes into October. So what does that do with budget projections? We don't know. We're not going to have that information until October. So the May revise is actually going to be a best guess May revise. So that's creating a lot of uncertainty. And again, the governor's budget proposal in January did not account for any recession. And as you see, the federal government doing the rate hikes, there's fears of recession. And so there's all this like uncertainty of what's going to happen in the next several months, because California, our revenue is based upon, how well the stock market does. Yay. So that's a little synopsis. You can listen to more in the video because Kevin is, he details it very well and has a nice little conversation going on there. Okay, so moving on to the bills. I sent you guys an email and with both the Sandabs bills as well as bills that I pulled out. In general, all of the bills that have been introduced, because the deadline was a couple of weeks ago, are in the Sandabs bills report. Those bills relate in some way to children and families. So some of them may not be education related, but they have an effect on families and on our families or districts. It's interesting. There's a lot of bills that are unfunded mandates, of course. things that would pile on duties onto our staff, such as every single IEP student doing a inclusion safety plan to be incorporated and attached to each school site's comprehensive safety plans, the one that we just approved at the last board meeting, or the fact that another bill introduces that we need to have computer science class. Another one says, let's insert climate change into our science curriculum. All of these things, there's a lot of that is going on. So we'll see how it shakes up. The budget, the different committees hearings are starting. So we'll see how these all play out. So in regards to specific bills, I did a Rim of the World Unified School District sort of legislative report for you guys. I'm going to touch base on, because Jordana, you are always talking financial literacy, right? So what I did is I went through every single bill, and there's 3 bills that I pulled specifically for you that address financial literacy. Okay. So I thought you would appreciate that. So we have AB 431, AB 526, and AB 984 that all have to do with financial literacy or personal finance. So I thought that they're there for you to read, but it's introducing that whole idea of a course on financial literacy and professional development and instructional materials for financial literacy. With that, there's also a bill that has to do with media literacy and teaching our children responsible use of social media. And I sort of thought it was kind of tying into some of the conversations we have. Shannon, you have a question?
Yes, Cindy. I would. Can we go back to that special ed one real quick?
Yes.
The inclusion safety plan, is that for
Program.
every single student?
It is
Or
taking
program?
a look. I will send you the read of the bill, but what it says in the description is that your IEP students, you have to make sure that your safety plan allows them to be able to access whatever it is that is in that safety plan. So it's called a inclusion safety program component that you write to accommodate your students. And then that also, you want to make sure that if a student with an IEP transfers to a different school, like that school site has that inclusion program within their comprehensive safety. So the inclusion safety plans have to be at each school site for students with IEP. It's really interesting. And you just go, okay, that's a lot of work. Oh, there's no money. How exciting is that? So I just thought that one was interesting. Another one is that I thought was interesting that doesn't have any ramifications in terms of additional staff costs is that you know how IEP students, their IEP meetings can be recorded or to be recorded. There's a bill that introduced that students with 504 plans, those meetings be actually recorded as well. They can be recorded. So we'll see how that goes. There's a couple of special education ones. I will cut and paste those together for you just so that you don't have to go through the massive bill document and kind of highlighting those special education bills, because there's some interesting ones that do have ramifications if they were to pass for our staff. Some of them seem super labor intensive to me as a layman, but maybe they're not, that we might be doing pieces or parts already. So going to other bills, I'm going to save a couple bills for last. The AB 377, the mariachi bill, the California Career Technical Education Incentive Grant, the Strong Workforce Program. I talked about this last month. Sandebs did take a support on that. That's the one that would increase the amount of the grant from $300,000 to $450,000 and reduce that match 2-to-1 match kind of. So we're excited about that. I know Stephanie would be. another one that I talked about last last month, AB 384 is about how the interior temperature. I just really think that we should watch this bill to see where it goes. And then if it goes forward, what other parameters that are going to be, are they going to be very super specific, like classroom temperatures no more than blah, 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 you know, that kind of stuff. There's another bill. This is becoming a very hot, look at me with my puns. Hot topic is that there's another bill that is going to target the space of a school, how much asphalt versus green space around a school, because the asphalt heats up. And when the kids are out there playing and it's so hot, it causes heat exhaustion. So there's a bill to introduce to reduce the amount of that space, that asphalt and concrete space, and introduce more green space and shade. So just interesting that that's becoming more prominent. And I think that we should be aware of it because we do have issues. We need HVAC systems to bring in air conditioning to our facilities. So I think we should watch that one. The other one, Senator Ochoa Bogue, I bring this up because yay, our senator is brought SB 283, which is asthma management. She's following this California School Boards Association asthma management sample administrative regulation. And it's just to be more stringent in the way that we handle our targeted, our students that have been identified as asthma students. Very, very comprehensive plan. Again, another watch bill, please, is SB 767, the Rubio bill, mandatory kindergarten, because we do not have full day kindergarten. This is something that if it looks like it's going to move forward, we need to be better with our collaboration and our implementation of full day kinder if this bill passes. I think we just learned from our past mistakes when we tried to implement full day kinder before, because we had secondary schools present their reports to us, and we saw suspension rates that are concerning. At AB 728, the Jackson bill, the lowest performing schools, meaning that have suspension rates in the red for 2 years, or they would end up, if this bill passes, would require schools to develop and the schools to implement school discipline reforms, interventions to address that low performance. So that is something that we should be concerned of, because we do have schools whose suspension rates are operating in the orange or red. On the California dashboard, a clarification bill, sorry about that, the California dashboard. So with that, the two bills, Bill, you asked me about bringing to your attention, that's something that we may want to take a position on. The first one that Sandabs brought up and had intense conversation on is AB 659, the Aguilar bill, which is the Cancer Prevention Act. And what this would be is making it mandatory for students going into 8th grade to have the HPV vaccination. And what the concern is that the current kindergarten shots, the current vaccination for 7th grade, these are all things that are you get in a group with our little, sick little kinders, and one has the measles, and it can be easily spread throughout the classroom, or mumps, or chicken pox. Those vaccinations are for contagions like that. HPV is not that type of contagion. And so, as what was part of the discussion in Sandabs, this vaccination doesn't fit with the other mandatory vaccinations. It just doesn't fit. It's not of the same mold. And is this something that should be a private decision between in the household? And is this really overreaching for the schools to make this mandatory for our, all of our students entering 8th grade? This is something that is going to be, it's already coming into question. Some superintendents are already getting concerned citizens about this bill. And so the reason why Sandabs is putting this on a watch instead of us voting to take a position, because there were several of us that wanted to take an opposed position. And what Capital Advisor said is that we should watch, because this is a bill, especially because it's dealing with vaccinations, which is a hot topic, that this may die in committee. We just don't know. So I don't know if it's something that you want to bring forward to actually next board meeting, take a position and throw our hat in the ring one way or the other, but it is controversial. It's already stirring controversy. The other bill, SB 760, Sandabs is also taking a watch. It's the Newman bill, all gender restrooms. It would require each school site to provide at least one all gender bathroom. I asked a clarifying question. Does that mean like a facility like Rim High School that it's built like the Winchester House, the little rat maze? If we would have to do one in like a certain area, like the 300 wing, 200 wing, 100 wing, no, it's one gender bathroom per the entire campus. The concern that was raised, there's no money currently provided in this bill. So you would have to eke out a bathroom to do this with your own money for each facility. And you would have to find the room to be able to do this. And there are campuses that are very impacted in our county. So there's a real concern about finding a facility and then converting it into a bathroom at your own cost. So again, Sandabs decided to take a watch to see how this played out in committee. We'll see how it goes. It's going to the education committee for discussion. So anyways, I'm opening it up for a discussion on what you guys want. If you see of anything of concern that you would like to be brought back for action.
By the way, Kim, don't we already have, and I'm not sure what name, this one's calling it all gender bathroom, but don't we already have a restroom at almost every school site that anyone can use?
We have gender neutral bathrooms at our school sites, but I'm not sure what the language in this bill is that takes it one step further in specificity. And so I actually would be willing to and interested in looking at reading at the language inside of that bill and to see if it passes exactly the way it's written. Sometimes they kind of get morphed by the time they actually pass. So that will be an interesting one to follow.
I think that one of the biggest concerns is cost, that for districts that need to be able to eke out space.
And I think as far as the other one, AB 659, that's something I, like you, Cindy, would want to represent a position in opposition.
Well, Bill, I didn't say it was just me, but we can bring this back as an agenda item to take a position. And then what happens after that is that when Sandabs takes a position, Capital Advisors writes a letter to the bill's author, as well as, whomever. And in our case, it would be Senator Chobog and Assemblymember Lackey. And we could take that letter format and rework it for our district, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel on what a letter looks like when we take a position. It's already legalese. I love Capital Advisors. You just take what they give you, and then it's all been vetted.
But right now they're just in a watch position, you're saying?
Yeah, they believe that because vaccines as a whole, the vaccinations are as a whole, as a topic, is so hot of a topic that this may just die in committee. It may. They're not saying it will. It may. So that's why they're taking a watch. However, Sandabs agreed to the watch, but with a caveat that this is watched closely. So if there's any change to this bill whatsoever, that Sandabs members are notified immediately. So then that way we can change our position immediately.
All right, any questions for Cindy?
Just a comment. Thank you for flagging those financial literacy bills. I did a quick glance through them. I really appreciate it.
Of course, Jordana, I do. I may do a lot of talking, but I do a lot of listening too. So I know what your concerns are. So Bill, do we want to give direction to put this on the next agenda, or do we want to just hold and do a watch like Sandabs?
I think you can bring that up at the end of the meeting when we have agenda options.
Well, I just want to I just want to get the feel so that I'm not overstepping my bounds and doing something that you all don't want me to do.
Scott?
I agree with having options. I think that's the best case. I have my opinions, but I still want to see how everything plays out a little bit, and having options is better. I agree.
So what do you mean by that, Scott?
What I mean is how it plays out as far as we take a stance. There's a couple things there that I'm a little concerned about, but I'd like to kind of see how it plays out a little bit first.
I would add to that.
We can't take action right now in any way on this. It's just a report, but that's why I would suggest, Cindy, that you may want to put it on as a future agenda item when we get to that point, okay? Or any board member can, doesn't have to just be you, Cindy.
Cindy, can I ask one clarification, Bill, if possible?
Shannon?
Cindy, on the all gender bathroom, or I believe it's at A3 or A2 that they can access the bathroom without asking for permission. Could you get more clarification on that?
Yeah,
I believe it's A2 or A3. It's section B, number 2. Section B, A2 under 3592.5 in the blue section.
Are you actually in the bill language on
Yes.
the website?
I'm in the bill language that Mr. Jordan sent over to us in the link for us to look at.
Oh, got it. Sorry.
It
I
says,
wasn't-
is unlocked, unobstructed, and easily accessible by any pupil without requesting access.
Exactly. So it is a little bit different than neutral, correct?
Yeah, my only question would be without requesting access. So I guess my question is, because it's K-12, so if first grader can just get up and go to the restroom without asking?
Well, it still would be like, the student has to ask the teacher and get a hall pass, obviously, to go to the bathroom. As to using the all gender restroom, they don't
Okay.
need to have permission. They don't
Right.
need to have it special access to it or any of that. It's how a lot of public places now have all gender bathrooms with that it's the same exact thing. Anybody can go in.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That makes sense. Now that you
Scott?
mentioned that.
The same thing. I was just going to comment that the student asked to be released, and then they go to the bathroom that they feel comfortable with. Is what I read it as being.
Yes. It's just like a restaurant or any other public place that has the all gender sign on it. And that's what we would put on the bathroom. And then they would pick whichever bathroom they wish to go to. But again, we only have to provide one per site. We don't need to do it per, square footage or any of that.
Thank you, Cindy. Thanks for all the work that you do with Sandabs. 12.3 Equity and Social Justice Committee report. My apologies. I warned you last time that we need to watch out for the scheduling of the Equity and Social Justice Committee because we seem to have snow days each time, and they are getting longer and more expanded. So I'm not sure if we're going to plan another meeting this next month, but we're going to have to make up. There will be one coming. I'm just not going to tell anybody publicly except for the committee so we don't have a snow day.
Thank you, Bill, because you're jinxing us.
All right, action calendar. The 13.1, superintendent approval of the revised 2023 governance handbook. Hopefully you've all reviewed that approval for the revised 2023 governance handbook that has been published. It's in your files. It's on the agenda, and I will entertain a motion to approve the governance handbook 2023.
So moved.
Who was
Cindy
that?
Gardner. So moved, Cindy Gardner.
Thank you, Cindy. Second.
Scott, second.
Scott, second. Okay, any discussion? The changes were all there. Unfortunately, and I'm hoping we'll be able to do something different in the future. We really need to have the changes highlighted so that you can see them in any kind of change like this that the board's making. We need to have those highlighted. So we will continue to work on that from an office perspective. But I think you all saw there were not a lot of them, but they were especially trying to clarify the difference between what and how. The school district, the staff does the how. We are supposed to deal with the policy, the what. And so we tried to just kind of shift some of that language there and improve upon that. So are there any discussion?
I appreciate all the work that's gone into this, and I know it's a long time coming, and I think it's a worthwhile thing to change.
Good. If there's no further discussion, then we're going to take a roll call vote. And if you would simply say your name and your trustee area, please. All those in favor?
Weren't we going to go in order?
Yeah, I was having a hard time unmuting, so it was not responding. Okay, Dana Ridland, area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, area 3, aye.
Scott Kraft, area 4, aye.
Jordan Zarate, trustee area 5, aye.
And Bill Mellinger, trustee area 1, aye. Is carried unanimously. Thank you. 13, if I get out of order here, let me know, anybody. 13.2 Personnel Services, approval of the tentative agreement between Rim of the World Unified School District and Rim Teachers Association to increase the certificated salary schedule by 8%, effective July 1, 2022, and an off-schedule salary increase of $3,500. The tentative agreement between RTA and the district increases the certificated salary schedule by 8%, effective 7/1/22. It provides an off-schedule salary increase of $3,500. Fiscal impact, current year cost of $1,794,289. That includes the off-schedule salary. I'll entertain a motion.
So move, Cindy Gardner, area 3.
I second it. Scott Kraft, area 4.
Any discussion? I'm going to say this, that we have done everything we can to try to show our appreciation for our teaching staff. And we have really stretched. Some people will say, oh, you can still come up with more money. The monies are going to decline. You already heard Jenny's report, but we're trying to do what we can to take care of our teachers. So with that, again, we'll go in the same order. All those in favor?
Dana Ridland, area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, area 3, aye.
Scott Kraft, area 4, aye.
Jordan Zarate, trustee area 5, aye.
Bill Mellinger, trustee area 1, aye, it's carried unanimously. 13.3 Personnel Services, approval of the expanded learning opportunity program, coordinator job description, the ELOP or expanded learning.
Excuse me, Mr. President, I think we're on Personnel Services. Approval of the personnel page.
Okay, is your order different than the one that I have printed? Because my 13.3 is Personnel Services.
Oh, maybe I'm out of order. Apologies.
Bill, I have exactly what you have.
What I have, Cindy?
Yeah, 13.3 is the approval at E ELOP.
That's what I have too.
Jordana has nothing? Well,
I have to stop muting myself. I see what Jordan sees. So we're going off of two different documents. I pulled mine off of Diligent.
Yeah, mine's off Diligent and it shows 14.3 as the approval of the personnel page.
Kim?
I show 13.3 for myself.
Which one are we working from, Kim?
Bill, where did you pull yours off of?
I pulled mine from Sue's email, annotated agenda,
That's what I pulled from.
and print pages 1 through 12.
That's what I have.
And
I
that's what
followed-
did.
Yeah,
Bill, where do you have the approval of the personnel page on yours?
Personnel page on mine. So I've got coming up Personnel Services, approval of the personnel page is also, oh, great. This is that one, Kim, where we had it listed as two 13.3s.
Mhm.
Oh my.
So I just had pulled up from Diligent, but
Uh-oh. Okay, just.
I don't have a 13.4.
I don't either.
Even on Diligent, even on the drive, it's listing 13.3s personnel services. But see, this is the older one, Kim, because this is the one that has two 13.3s.
I don't show it two 13.3s myself.
I don't have a
I
213.
do from the one that I'm looking at. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Mr. President, I might recommend that we switch over to I dropped a link to the Diligent one. That's the one that's accessible by the community. I might recommend we switch over and start operating from that one.
but then what happened is that we just approved 13.2,
Mhm.
which is the tentative agreement,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Well, that 13.2 on the Diligent is 14.2. It's a
Correct.
completely different numbering system, so we just approved 13.1 and 13.2.
So
So
I'll just go on to my email.
So Bill, why don't you continue with your the agenda that you have? And then when you get down to the double number,
just renumber it, Bill.
The next one is the double number. The next one would be 13.4. So
Just renumber them as you go, Bill. We'll
Yeah.
help you out.
yeah.
May I ask why we can't follow what was published to the community? Don't we have to follow that one? That was the one that everyone had
Well, then we need,
72-hour access to.
okay, then Jordan, we need to go back. And we need to go back to, because we just approved 13.1 and 13.2. So we did not, so now we have to go back and do 14.1, 14.2. If that's what we want to do, we need to make sure that we're following whatever numbers. And if we have to go back, we have to go back.
If we go back, where the numbers started going off was on the Diligent report, there's a 12.0 reports and presentations that says none. That's where we started moving
Right.
off the number track. I thought that
Okay.
Bill was just misreading the numbers, so I didn't say
No,
anything
that's
earlier.
fine. That's
just
fine.
everyone, let me interrupt, please. Use the link that Jordan put in there. We'll all get back on that one. And we will use those numbers. So the number that we just approved, first off, let's back up. Under the action calendar, we went to 14.1. 14.1 was superintendent approval of the revised 2023 governance handbook. We approved that one. 14.1 now. That is no longer what I stated earlier as 13 point whatever. 13.1. So we went from 13.3 Equity and Social Justice Committee report to action calendar, which is 14. That is superintendent approval. We approved that. 14.2, approval of the tentative agreement. We approved that. We are now at 14.3, personnel services, approval of the personnel page. Are you all with me? And I can't see because I'm now to put my screen on that because I had printed the other one. So
Right.
now
We're good.
I'm with you.
Thank you. And I'm going to kind of stay over there somewhat. So I'll move back and forth as a Mabel, but y'all may have to talk openly for me. By the way, I gave Jordana permission as a point of information that I'm tired. And if I get overly frustrated with anybody, she's able to say, stop being a grouch, Bill. Okay.
I will use that judiciously.
Yeah. Yes. Does that mean you're going to use it a bunch now? No.
You're doing great.
Okay, so we are now at 14.3, approval of the personnel page. The personnel page entails all items requested of the board by the personnel department. Fiscal impact of various accounts is to be determined. Personnel page is attached. Do I have, oh my, there's, see, this one doesn't have the, oh shucks. Okay, I will entertain a motion.
Cindy Gardner so moves. Board Area 3.
Scott Kraft, second.
And just so we all know, none of the motions or any of those items, none of the notes that we normally use are in this agenda. So I will work on us getting through it. So we have a motion by Cindy, a second by Scott for the personnel page. Is there any discussion? And I'm looking over at the page, so please just say yes or no. Okay.
No.
No, we're good, Bill. We'll keep talking to you. Sorry, I thought I keep thinking you're seeing us. Okay, so we're all good. So let's go for the vote.
Good. All right. All those in favor of 14.3, the approval of the personnel page?
Dana
Say
Ridland, Area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, Area 3, aye.
Scott Kraft, Area 4, aye.
Jordan Zarate, Trust Area 5, aye.
Bill Mellinger, Trustee Area 1, aye. Motion carried unanimously. 14.4, Personnel Services, approval of the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program. ELOP, coordinator job description. The ELOP coordinator will help establish and facilitate the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program, such as providing resources and support for the before and after school program. Fiscal impact to be determined. Do I have a motion?
So move, Cindy Gardner, Area 3.
Is there a second?
Second, Scott Kraft, Area 4.
We have a motion and second for 14.4, the approval of the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program, coordinator job description. Is there any discussion? You're all shaking your heads.
No,
No.
Bill.
I'm going to have to keep going back and forth. Okay. No further discussion. All those in favor, say, please respond.
Dana Ridland, Area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, Area 3, aye.
Scott Kraft, Area 4, aye.
Jordan Zarate, Trust Area 5, aye.
Bill Mellinger, Trustee Area 1, aye. Yeah, the Personnel Services approval of the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program coordinator job description is carried unanimously. 14.5, Personnel Services approval of the Rim of the World Unified School District's proposals for reopeners for negotiations with the California School Employee Association for the 2022-2023 school year. In compliance with California Government Code Section 3547, the public has a right to be informed of those areas CSEA and the district will be negotiating and shall have an opportunity to express themselves. Fiscal impact right now is none. Rim of the World Unified School District opener proposal for Sunshine CSEA 2022-2023 is attached. Do I have a motion?
So move Cindy Gardner, area 3.
Is there a second?
Second, Scott Kraft, area 4.
Any discussion?
No.
Hearing no discussion, take a vote in our normal way. All those in
Dana
favor?
Redlands, area 2, aye.
Cindy,
Sorry, I was already moving on. Cindy Gardner, area 3, aye.
Scott Kraft, area 4, aye.
Jordan Zarate, trust area 5, aye.
Gil Mellinger, trustee area 1, aye. It's carried unanimously. 14.6, educational services approval to purchase 500 Chromebooks, chargers, Google Chrome management licenses, and e-waste Chromebook purchase. Educational services approval to purchase those Chromebooks. And let's see, is there a motion?
So move Cindy Gardner, area 3.
Second, Scott Kraft, area 4.
Any discussion?
No.
No, Bill Mellinger.
I have a quick question. Is this to, just the purpose, is this replenishing across, is this for a specific site or is this across the district? What are these for?
Kim, Jenny, Shannon, which ones want to speak to that?
Or Heather?
Or Heather. So there are some that are going to be replenished and replaced. I think that Mark Malone has that replenishment time frame, the inventory in mind. But then also for our summer ELAP program, we do want to provide some resources to sustain that program with that funding source. So we have worked with Mark to either replenish, replace, and or gear up for ELAB. And that's what's going to be coming through the board this meeting and the next meeting.
Mark or Heather, now I see that you are the RIM logo. Mark or Heather, either of you want to add anything?
Nope, I think Kim covered it. We just need to keep momentum going to be in a refresh cycle, so that the ones that we purchased 5-6 years ago, we can take those out of inventory and add new ones.
So that's how far backward we are, is 5-6 years ago, Mark?
I want to say, yeah, probably maybe even 7 years ago when we first started using Chromebooks.
So
That
does
seems to me in the computer world to be very outdated.
Yes.
Cindy?
So does that mean, Mark, that there'll be e-waste for RIM High School PTSA in the fall? That's all what it's about, buddy.
I just
Heather,
want to give
anything
a,
to add?
Nope, I think they have said it all.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you. And-
I
and then-
wanted to,
Well, I know you're there, Heather. I didn't even think you.
I'm just.
All right.
Jordan had a comment.
I wanted to give a kudos to our IT team for expanding the life of our Chromebooks. I know that a lot of this work is done, small replacement, any replacement type of work that we can do in-house. I know that they are doing, and it shows by not only having that longevity of 5 or 6 years, but also the fact that we're doing a replenishment of 500 right now. It's not all of them need to be replenished. It's slowly starting that type of cycle. So I think that should be commended. That saves our district quite a lot of money, because you can see from this action item, Chromebooks are expensive. I know they're the cheapest, laptops on the market, but they're still expensive. They're still pricey. And these are still going into kids' hands where who knows what happens to them. Accidents happen all the time. And to have staff that is able to manage and do a lot of these replacements in-house is huge.
Mark, what percentage of the ones bought 5-6 years ago are all operating?
Well, there's a term called planned obsolescence, where the ones that are that old can no longer be updated to the newer operating system. So, we can keep them out there, but they won't have the same functionality as a brand new one. So, and usually we, we put those in carts as the last resort in case we have to, for some reason, we have to get Chromebooks out there. But with this opportunity to refresh those, we can get those out and get the newer ones into the kids' hands.
And Mark, Chromebooks also have a limitation. And so is there anything else that's better?
Well, from a manageability standpoint, with an IT department with 3 people and 3,000 students, they're very easily managed on our end. And so, we're kind of in the Google ecosystem already. So, every ecosystem has its ups, the good and bad points. COVID really threw us into this. So, our students are used to it. So I think, just keeping on using this, and our teachers are used to it, or everybody's used to Chromebooks. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Cindy, you started to say something?
No, I just know that we had, when we were making that decision a long time ago, laptops versus Chromebooks, because we did buy some laptops. It was just cost prohibitive to keep going down that path. And so there was a decision to go Chromebooks because of exactly those things. But I'm excited about the whole replenishing of e-waste.
All right, let's take the vote. Call the question. All those in favor, please use the same method. All those in favor say aye.
Dana Ridland, Area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, Area 3, aye.
Scott Kraft, Area 4, aye.
Jordan Zarate, Trustee Area 5, aye.
Bill Mellinger, Trustee Area 1, aye. Motion is carried unanimously. We are now at 14.7. Special Services Approval of the Mountaintop CPR AED and First Aid Training for our staff. Provide CPR, which is cardiopulmonary resuscitation. AED, what is that?
I don't know the exact acronym, but it's a machine to restart your heart.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. The electrical, whatever. And
Yeah.
first aid training for our staff. Mountaintop CPR will issue each of our employees needing CPR certification an online e-course, which can be completed at their own pace. Once the e-course is completed, we will schedule an in-person skills verification that will allow CPR, AED, and first aid skills to be verified and allow the opportunity for additional questions to be answered. For the initial group, estimated at 20 to 25 people, we will provide 3 skills verification opportunities to accommodate various schedules. Each skills session would run between 30 to 90 minutes and can be located at a school site of our choice. Fiscal impact is $99 per person. Do I have a motion?
So move, Cindy Gardner, Area 3.
Is there a second?
I would like to second it, but I would like to ask, is the $99, is that paid by the district?
Wait 1 second. Do your motion and then we can have discussion, Scott.
Okay,
Go
I
second.
motion-
Woo!
I motion the second.
We now have a second to the motion. Now we can have discussion. Go ahead and ask your question again, Scott, or Kim, answer the question, please.
Yes, we would pay by the district would pay for the services.
Any further
We-
discussion or questions?
Have we identified the funding source for that yet?
Oh, that's a Jenny question.
Jenny?
I can answer that as well. The funding source would come from our end of the special services budget. This is for our security guards, our coaches, anyone that needs to have their CPR and the things that the first aid, CPR, AED, to ensure that they are in compliance, and it will come out of our yearly budget. We're expecting right around 20 to 25 people a year, tops.
So it's not every teacher, every staff kind of thing. Okay, that's great. Because I'm
I'm
sure
sorry, I
there's.
had to open a window. It's hot in the room I'm in.
Okay.
I've already turned off the heater.
So what are the categories once again that are included in special services, Shannon?
So this would be for our security guards, it's be for our coaches, this would be people that are in need of being recertified every year or every other year. So this is our main categories of those. Our teachers, this would not fall in. If the teachers choose to do that, then they will pay for the $99.
Good questions, Scott. All right, any further discussion? All right, we will use the same method. All those in favor, say aye.
Dana Ridland, Area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, Area 3, aye.
Scott Kraft, Area 4I.
Gordon Zarate, trustee area 5, aye.
Bill Mellinger, trustee area 1, aye. Motion is carried unanimously. 14.8, business services approval of the expanded learning opportunities program. Okay.
Okay, so move. Cindy Gardner, Area 3.
Is there a second?
Scott Kraft, Area 4.
All right, any further discussion of the business services approval of the expanded learning opportunities program?
I know this is a lot of work, and I know this is a hard program to administer, and I know this is not just for our district, for a lot of districts. So I appreciate that we've put in the time and effort to put together and craft a plan so that we can utilize these dollars because it will benefit our students. I know a lot of districts they don't have the administrative resources to even do this program and are just opting out of it. It's leaving money on the table, quote unquote, but it's much more than that. It's placing more administrative burden on districts without recognizing that all of these things take a lot of time and staff energy. So I really do appreciate that we've put this together because we all know that at the end, it's going to be a benefit to our community and our students. So I very much appreciate that.
Heather Dominguez, please speak to that just briefly though, about what the expanded learning opportunities grant.
Well, the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant is a program that provides for before and after school, as well as intercession opportunities for learning that incorporate math, language arts course subjects, as well as enrichment kinds of courses. But it must be 9 hours of programming throughout the course of the day. And so that just creates a lot of challenges in terms of staffing, facilities, those kinds of things. So we've been doing a lot of conversations in cabinet about what that might look like in collaboration with our own staff, as well as partnering with other, folks that may have some expertise in these kinds of programs. And having the learning opportunity programs job description approved this evening is a very big help because that will provide someone with some expertise to help facilitate some of those programs. So I was excited to see that pass this evening so that we can get somebody on board to help with some of that.
And what's the prospects, because that was a good decision, I think, what's the prospects out there for finding somebody that will be qualified to do that and lead this now?
Well, we will find that out when we post that job description. We have a few folks that have come to mind that we know throughout our community, but we'll be interested to see how many people apply for that.
Okay. All right. Any further questions or discussion?
Just, comment. Especially considering that our students will have been out of school these past couple of weeks and missing out on, their regular school days. I was thinking about how wonderful it is that we are pursuing ELOP, because now more than ever, especially our student population is going to need that extra time, those extra learning opportunities. So thank you.
All right. We'll call the question. All those in favor, please use the same method.
Dana Ridland, Area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, Area 3, aye.
Scott Kraft, Area 4, aye.
Gordon Zarate, trustee area 5, aye.
Bill Mellinger, trustee area 1, aye. The motion carried unanimously. 14.9, Business Services 2022-2023 second interim financial report and certification of the district's financial position. Approval of the 2022-2023 second interim financial report and certification of district's financial position. I'm not going to read that again. I'm sorry. Do I have a motion to approve the district's position for the 2022-2023 second interim financial report, which was a positive report? Thank you, Jenny.
Cindy Gardner, so moved.
Second,
Scott Kraft, second. And yeah, again, thank you, Jenny.
any further discussion? Oh, I think we should make it harder for Jenny. Everyone should vote no.
Oh, Bill. You're gonna be pardoned.
You'll get a call from Mr. Ted Alejandre if you do that.
He's never called me, so maybe I need to do that.
Oh,
All
We
those
don't
in
like those
fa-
calls.
All those in favor, please use the same method.
Dana Ridland, Area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, Area 3, aye.
Scott Kraft, Area 4, aye.
Jordan Zarate, Trust Area 5, aye.
Bill Mellinger, Trustee Area 1, aye. Motion carries unanimously, except that Cindy was not dancing, so I'm nervous about her vote.
What? Well, dude, we're like in a rhythm. I feel like we're in like a beat. Like we could now do like a rap song or something right now. You want? I'll do something different for you, Bill, next time.
Thank you, Cindy. Motion carried unanimously. 14.10, am I in order? Business Services
Yes.
recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the MOU from the Rim of the World Educational Foundation in the amount of $22,071.78 for the CTE ROP program. Fiscal impact is a donation of $22,071.78.
Cindy Gardner, so moved.
Is there a second?
Scott Kraft, second.
Any further discussion?
I just want to put on for the record that when Rim Ed Foundation took on the whole idea of supporting ROP-CTE, the original amount was like $5,000 and then it was $10,000. So now it's more than doubled in just a few short years, which it just speaks directly to their efforts to go after grants. Their fundraising, Give Tuesday, Big Give Tuesday, Polar Bear Plunge. God bless them. God bless them on that one. And all of those efforts to literally see this more than double in a few short years is just amazing.
Good. Now, Cindy, what is CTE ROP?
Our ROP is Regional Occupation Program, and the CTE is Career Technical Education. There you go. See, you thought you were going to stump me.
No, actually, I didn't. I expected.
Oh.
I didn't call on Scott. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor, use the same method, please. Say aye.
Dana Ridland, Area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, Area 3, aye.
Scott Kraft, Area 4, aye.
Jordan Zarate, Trust Area 5, aye.
Bill Mellinger, Trustee Area 1, aye. Motion carries unanimously. 14.11. Business Services recommends the approval of the transportation plan for the 2022-2023 school plan. Fiscal impact is none. Do I have a motion?
So move, Cindy Gardner, Area 3.
Do I have a second?
Scott Kraft, second.
Any discussion?
We had talked about this, I think, at the last meeting, that this will be a new requirement going forward, even if we don't benefit from the additional quote unquote funding. Is that right?
Yes, I mean, technically, an audit requirement of receiving apportionment under the new transportation funding is to adopt a plan by April 1st of this year and revise the plan by April 1st in every subsequent year. So technically, we are getting an apportionment. It's just zero.
Wow.
So,
How you spend that?
so, but you know, there could be a year that we're not getting zero. So, and just to add, if I may, you know, we did have, you know, Jen K-Well and a couple member of her team and a couple members of my team. You know, we did, you know, we utilized Google Forms and, you know, you made some collaborative documents, and we just went through the ed code and said, okay, what are the requirements of the ed code? And then really we're able to get that input, and really our current bus pass plan of transportation was really a lot. We had a transportation plan already. We just didn't, it just wasn't, you know, in this design. So it was definitely collaborative, and I really appreciated everyone's efforts who helped put it together.
So you spent time and energy in order to get that appropriation. Thank you.
Zero.
And if you hadn't put in that effort, I imagine we would have gotten fined somehow or docked.
There wasn't, it would have been an audit write-up. So you know how I feel about those.
Yeah.
I'll call the question. All those in favor, please use the same method.
Dana Ridland, Area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, Area 3, aye.
Any other ayes?
Scott
Scott's
Kraft, pick up
really
the
weighing his
pace.
vote.
Sorry. I second. Scott Kraft.
I believe that is Scott Kraft, Area 4. Was that an aye?
That was an aye. Sorry. I'm
Thank
messing up.
Jordan Zarate, trustee area 5, aye.
Ellinger, trustee area 1, aye. Motion carries unanimously. 14.12, business services approval of the global government entity settlement agreement with Jewel Labs Incorporated.
Just
Is there a motion?
so moved, Bill. I'll bail ya.
Thank you.
Scott Kraft, I second.
All right. Is there any discussion on the agreement with Jewel Labs? In fact, let's see, who is it? Jenny or Kim needs to speak to this, what it is.
Jenny,
Catherine?
if you are available.
Yep. Some of you weren't on the board when we approved a contract with a legal firm, and Michelle was the superintendent at the time, who you know, we joined the class action lawsuit under Jewel Labs, and the idea was, you know, what did we, you know, how much do you think we would probably get as far as our piece of that, and we submitted like a wish list at the time. It was vape detectors and things like that that we would want. So I mean, this class action lawsuit has been kind of silent for several years. I think, because it was, I think, well before COVID when we entered that lawsuit. So this was the, you know, the final component of that, as it's been settled, and our piece, and what our piece is, you know, will be. And I don't know if I'm allowed, I don't know, because some of this was attorney-client privilege with the document and what our final dollar amount will be. So I'm not 100% sure if I can share that, but you know, this is the first step. There was a date in April, I believe, like April 6th, that we had to approve this and then they'll submit our settlement documents, and then we'll receive the funding for that.
So that's yet to come then.
I just wanted to give a shout out to, I know Jenny was here at the time, and I'll give a shout out to our former superintendent, Michelle Murphy, who brought this forth to us and, you know, made us aware that this was an opportunity that we could join in on, and that I'm very glad that we did, because it is paying off years later, many years later, but it's a benefit for our district. So I'm excited about that.
All those in favor of the motion as presented, use the same method for voting. All those say aye.
Dana Ridland, Area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, Area 3, aye.
Scott Kraft, Area 4, aye.
Jordan Zarate, trustee area 5, aye.
Bill Mellinger, trustee area 1, aye. Motion carries unanimously. Obviously, if you incidentally do not vote, then we move on and you get to vote no. So that's why, Scott, I had to double check last time, make sure which way you were voting. All right, we are moving on to 14.13, business services E-rate. Business service approval of the Vector USA as the lowest responsive bidder for the Rim of the World E-rate. Fiscal impact is $31,623.77. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Cindy Gardner, Area 3.
It surprises me that you did that.
Scott Kraft, I second it. Area 4.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, use the same method, please. Say aye.
Dana Ridland, Area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, Area 3, aye.
Scott Kraft, Area 4, aye.
Jordan Zarate, trustee area 5, aye.
Mellinger, trustee area 1, aye. Motion carries unanimously. To the consent calendar. What was that? Nothing? Okay. Consent calendar items pooled for separate vote and discussion to be taken into consideration during agenda item. Okay, this is not looking right to me at the moment. Are there any items that anyone wishes to remove from the consent calendar for individual?
Not for me, Bill Mellinger.
Thank you, Cindy.
Nor I.
Thank you, Dana.
Nor I, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir.
I'm good.
All right, Scott. Then we'll move through. So for the consent calendar actions, items 15.1, 15.2, 15.3, 15.4, and 15.5, I entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved. We're at the end.
Any second?
I second it. Trustee Area 4, Scott.
Thank you,
Kraft.
Scott. Any discussion? And I'm not looking, so I'll come back to you. Any discussion? Jordan?
None.
Nope.
Nope, 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 nope.
Have some cross-country trip going, some other items that are normal. Okay, all those in favor, use the same method of saying aye.
Dana Ridland, Area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, Area 3, aye. Big aye.
Scott Kraft, Area 4, aye.
Jordan Zarate, trustee area 5, just a regular aye.
Bill Mellinger, trustee area 1, aye. 17, governance team future agenda items for planning. 17.1, time allotted for the Board of Trustees to request agenda items for future meetings. Is there anything that might be related to any of the AB bills or anything like that that anyone wants to suggest that we bring up in future for future items or anything else?
Mr. President, what I would suggest is we follow Sandab's action, and if for some reason between this meeting and the next regular meeting, there seems to be some movement on this, then whoever's on agenda setting, I will let you guys know and we'll bring it to agenda at that time. But I think we sit on this and per the discussion, just do a watch.
Okay, anyone else?
I agree.
So here, Dana, you have a thought.
Just wondering about us having a potential as a group, not about any specific bills at the state level, but advocacy outside of supporting or not wishing to have certain bills. Jordan had mentioned TOT, but wondering about us being able to agendize us discussing and deploying our personal, ourselves in pursuit of help for the community and having that agendized.
How would you say that then?
Um,
Go ahead, Dana, how would you say that?
I would say funding, advocating for additional funding for the community, a discussion. I'm totally open to other folks' suggestions in terms of that sort of a thing.
Is that separate from the intended use of the legislative report that we have as a group discussion? Is that separate from, I guess, legislative advocacy?
Yes, I would.
Jordana, I was going to support that. What I was thinking is that one effective point of advocacy, Jordana, is bringing people to your sites or to your district. So maybe what we can do is reach out to our legislators working with the superintendent when things are settled down, but still impactful, that they come to us and we can do a meeting agenda, because all of us can be there and we can meet at a site. So why don't we set a date for them to come up, and then we can talk about those issues in terms of relation to our school. Then the other part of that, Jordana, is that maybe what we can do is set up a meeting. They will come back to district in a little bit, and we can reach out to their offices to hold a meeting with them to put forth whatever we put on the agenda, like the items that you're looking at, like additional funding for the community, additional funding for whatever. So I think, so two different types of meeting, but doing a meeting, what you're talking about, and putting it on the agenda. What do we want to attack?
What I would just say is attacking is determining what we want to attack.
That's what I mean.
That discussion. And additionally, how do we want to tell our story? We have probably, I don't even know how many, hours, days worth of video footage at this point about our community. And also, and we also have an excellent AV resource at the high school, but also in the community. This might extend beyond just the school district, having that conversation. So right now we're having a conversation about having a conversation.
Right.
I'm saying agendize it so that we could, as a as a team, determine who, what, where, when, how, and what we want to be able, be strategic among ourselves in terms of how we want to tackle it.
Right. But we need to be cognizant of when they come back in district, just so that we can.
Perfect, but it's just also.
Cindy, you're talking about legislators. Actually, what Jordana was originally talking about was TOT, which is supervisor, which is different funding. So.
But I'm talking supervisor. And even maybe looking at the federal level, especially if FEMA gets involved, it's more a matter of us being able to determine how we want to tell our story, and then deploying, who we want to tell it to, bringing them in, going out. I have no idea. But honestly, what the events of the past couple of weeks have shown is that we are, and it isn't just a school district issue, not even slightly. So it may be also inviting other parts of the community as integrating with them to get that, but having the conversation, initiating that conversation.
That's what I took you to mean, Jordana, is that bigger picture. And then, like Scott Ridnell for Government Affairs Committee in Lake Road, he is working with a committee that's been set up for reopening 173, the backside, which does affect us as both the community as a school district in terms of, so, that's what I took you to mean, is bigger pieces of conversation for what, and where does that go?
And Brown Act doesn't allow us to be able to really discuss this without it being agendized. So
right, getting
that opportunity sooner rather than later, I think, while this is still in public memory, it'll be in our memory for a long time. But
I totally agree, Jordana. I think we should have it on the agenda. We should make it a discussion, however we do that. And however we're going to tell our story, it needs to get out there. We need to do this, and we need to not forget about it, and make sure we push forward every single moment that we can.
So I have a question, Jordana, because this sounds like kind of more of a workshop. Do we want to try for the March workshop to have a discussion, because it is like a study session, learning session.
I would ask Kim's thoughts on it, especially since she has been boots on the ground like crazy right now.
But we need to pause for a second. We're talking about several different items. If you're talking about reviewing what just happened with this disaster, that's one thing. If you're trying to say, what's the story of this district and what are its advantages, its benefits, its good things, and who do we want to go to get resources, that's another thing. I think we need to stop and think exactly what are we trying to accomplish. We also have a position that we've been trying to hire for, which also has conversation for that. So I would say, this is when we're supposed to already say what we want to do, and I'm not sure we are being clear enough. Dr. Fricker, what do you want to say?
I don't mind. It sounds like a workshop where the board can come together and kind of iron out their thoughts on a couple different ideas. One would be legislative action, and if you want to take any piece of that and create advocacy around any specific bill, and or if you want to have advocacy for in regard to the district and our surrounding communities in terms of funding relief and something of that nature, and what we can formalize and who we would bring into that picture to actually formalize advocacy, which would extend beyond just the school district or board of trustees or myself. So I think a workshop can kind of parcel out some of those pieces, compartmentalize them, and then we can then gain traction on what that looks like.
So I guess in terms of looking at the future, we have this workshop this month, and then we have a workshop in May. The May workshop is very impacted, and to add anything else onto it is not okay. So if we don't, Bill, if we don't want to have this conversation, if we think it's too soon or whatever for this for March, we can add a workshop if we wish. And that will alleviate either having it done too quickly, which is this month, or I would just not recommend putting it onto the May workshop. So I would say that we add a workshop.
In April?
Whatever month, I'm just saying that if this month is too soon, we're not going to do it in May, and we could add something. And if we think April is a good time, that it gives us enough time to, as Bill says, take a step back and take a breath and then schedule it and get us out of this, then April might be a good choice.
So it seems that we want to, what we should simply should say is we want to schedule a workshop to talk about our story and how and who we want to advocate that story to. Is that okay?
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, and Dr. Fricker will work on that.
Yep, I'll work on dates in April.
Awesome.
All right. Is there any other item? Because I want to make sure that somehow the school district participates in the review of the disaster and the role that the school district had, Dr. Fricker, and that we make sure that there's some kind of conversation in the larger community about what all was done, what needs to be done. This all happened back with the old fire, excuse me. Because of that, we now have Joint Command. Yes, Joint Command was at work at this, but there are other entities that needed to be a part of this, and we really need a more thorough analysis of what just took place and what is still taking place, excuse me.
That's exactly what I was going to look towards recommending, specifically as part of that, what more we as a board could do, or what more the district needs to be better prepared for disasters, because we have all kinds of them throughout all seasons. So I would just like to know what more we could do as a board, whether that's part of the advocacy conversation or whether it's part of maybe we need to update or review some of our board policies, and maybe there's something that we need to adjust there or add. But clearly seeing how this accident or this disaster is played out, I think emphasizes the need that we need to be a little more self-reliant than we probably ought to be. But, you know, I'm talking too much. That's just a request that I'd like to make for a future agenda, and whether it's in a future workshop or in a future board meeting.
Do you want to
Dr.
have that?
Fricker, excuse me, Cindy. Dr. Fricker, is that something that you would actually take a look at and do some presentation for us? Because I'm with Jordan. We need to have that evaluation.
We'll definitely do a postmortem after, this is over. I know that myself, a couple other people are just journaling, and we have been just at night, like the things that have happened during that day and what we could anticipate being prepared for and what we had no idea we needed to be prepared for. So I think a postmortem in any situation, especially as large as this, you should do that just as a habit of practice, which we will do. And then we can have either the larger discussion will be a part of that workshop. I can anticipate that would happen. And then we can have a later board presentation so that it gets out to the community, because not all community members tune into the workshops. So I do think you probably need it in both.
Actually, Bill, I was just asking for clarification on how Jordan saw, and you saw this conversation, because I saw it in both as a presentation, but also as something that we could do in a workshop so that we could have back and forth conversation and study. And, we could even print out appropriate board policies, Jordan, to review in a workshop that we can just take a look at. And then if we need to put them on a regular board workshop agenda to revise, we could do that.
And that's what in response to that, Cindy, that's what I'm partially asking Dr. Fricker, if she can put staff on that to look at actual policies that we have that we might need to review. But I also, I don't know, Jordan, if you're at the same place I am, but I also want to make sure that there is a postmortem that is larger than the school district. Kim, you have been doing things that are more than what would be required of the school district. And even any policies that we have. And so I want to make sure that there's that postmortem that the school district requests from a larger view.
Yep, perfect. I will.
We want to stand behind you getting others to do that postmortem.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other agenda items that anyone wants to bring up? Future agenda items? Can I just recommend, if you would please, let's try to have it thought out ahead of time so we can kind of be more clear what is it we want to agendize. So we are now asking for a workshop, and that will be on legislative actions. That will be a review of the conversation on our story, and we'll probably even do some post-mortem on the disaster, right? Did I get that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Just a second. Future meeting dates, board meeting workshop is March 30th. What's the subject of that workshop?
It's LCAP review in the committee, and then setting direction for the board goals, which are going to be the LCAP goals. And then there's a couple other items on that agenda that are just time sensitive and specific to the sale of the property. And I can't remember what other thing that Jenny had on there, but there's a couple items that are on that agenda as well.
Thanks, Kim. With that, regular board meeting also April 20th, 2023 at 5:30. I probably should have read the other board meeting workshop, March 30th, 2023 at 4 p.m. Rim of the World Unified School District, Lake Gregory Education Center, 24740 San Moritz Way, Crestline, California, 92325. Also regular board meeting April 2023 at 5:30 p.m. Rim of the World Unified School District, Lake Gregory Education Center, 24740 San Moritz Way, Crestline, California. We do not have anything to go back to closed session for, so we are going to hereby adjourn this meeting officially at 8:57 p.m.
So moved. Cindy Gardner, Area 3.
Second, Scott Kraft, Area 4.
All those in favor of the motion to adjourn? Use our same method.
Anna Ridgeland, Area 2, aye, big aye.
Cindy Gardner, following Jordana's example, big I, area 3.
Scott Kraft, Area 4. Aye.
Jordan Zarate, trustee area 5, aye.
Bill Mellinger with a comment. This is way too early for us. We're normally going to 11 p.m.
Okay,
No.
right now,
We must have
No.
missed something. Meeting